Chapter 1161. Dragon Vanquisher Sage angrily shouted. We've already paid a terrible price back then. Nearly all the Joyous Sect's disciples were killed. After I escaped, I didn't even dare to return to Wuxia. I didn't dare to take even half a step into that land. All these years, I've never harmed a single Wuxia citizen. Isn't that not enough? Blackface Buddha, Jade Buddha, and the others looked at each other with thoughtful expressions. None of them were people who killed indiscriminately. Even though Blackface Buddha was the Buddhist sect's law enforcement hall master. Even though he had killed countless people in the past, he had Buddha in his heart, and he advocated for Buddha's benevolence. Regardless of whether it was a Taoist or a Buddhist cultivator, killing was only a way to resolve the danger. What they cared about was the lives of the people of Wuxia. As for the people of the island, although they also cherish their lives, they do not cherish it very much. In the past, in that turbulent dark age, every single one of them had walked out of the mountain gate and launched a frenzied massacre against the invaders of the island countries. Therefore, they were very disgusted with this race. Dragon Vanquisher Sage was also aware of this matter because they understood their true nature. Because of that, the Blackface Buddha, Jade Buddha and the others hesitated. Swish! A figure shot over from the distance like a bolt of lightning. When he appeared before the 18 senior monks of the Blackface Buddha sect, the 18 senior monks all bowed respectfully. Dragon Vanquisher Sage was dumbfounded. He knew the identity of Blackface Buddha and the others, but he couldn't figure out why they would bow to a young man despite being hundreds of years old. Moreover, their expressions were so respectful towards that young man. Who was he? What qualifications did he have to make the 18 eminent monks of the Buddhist sect so respectful to him? With hands behind his back, Tanshio smiled and nodded at Blackface Buddha and the others. Then he slowly turned around to look at Dragon Vanquisher Sage and smilingly said, Joyous Palace, Dragon Vanquisher Sage. Am I right? It's me. Dragon Vanquisher Sage's face turned solemn. I think you should have guessed by now that I'm the one who arranged the feng shui grand array here. Tanshio chuckled. You should have guessed that I'm the master behind Kawako Yamamoto. That's right. Dragon Vanquisher Sage nodded. I even guessed that you must have done a lot of things in the fight between the Joyous Palace and the Jin camp. It can be said that General Fukuda and I have been tricked by you, right? Tanshio nodded and said, I admit that I'm the main reason why both of you have developed into this situation. Why? Dragon Vanquisher Sage suppressed the anger in his heart and asked in a deep voice. Tanshio smiled faintly and said, Why? Of course, it's so that my people can completely control the entire island. Whether it's your Joyous Palace or the Jin camp, both are beyond my expectations. With you in Japan, it will be very difficult for Kawako to control the entire country in a short time. Dragon Vanquisher Sage looked at Tanshio incredulously and blankly said, You're a Chinese cultivator. Yet you actually came to Japan to snatch my territory? Tanshio sneered and said, The cultivation resources on Earth are very limited. Be it the island nation or any other place in the world. As long as there are cultivation resources, I want to take them for myself. The path of cultivation is to fight against the heavens, against the earth, and against men. Dragon Vanquisher Sage fell into silence. He knew that Tanshio's words made sense. Wasn't the reason why he occupied Japan and secretly developed there in the first place for cultivation resources? Tanshio slowly turned around and looked at Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha, asking, Two masters, I just noticed a hesitant look on your faces. Is it because the persistence in your heart has loosened? Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha exchanged glances. Then Jade Buddha shook his head with a bitter smile and sighed. It's indeed a bit loosened. Dragon Vanquisher Sage is a remnant of my Buddhist sect and has committed a heinous crime. But he has never stepped into China all these years, nor has he harmed any Chinese people. Likewise, he has never brought harm to my Buddhist sect. So, Tanshio raised his hand to interrupt him and nodded. As the saying goes, lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the spot. I agree with this saying of the Buddhists. He has already paid the price for his past grievances. Can you spare his life if he's willing to lay down the butcher's knife now? This, Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha exchanged dismayed glances with hesitation on their faces. Dragon Vanquisher Sage's eyes lit up, and he cupped his fists toward Tan Xiao. How should I address you, mister? I'm Tan Xiao, answered Tan Xiao. Having said that, Tan Xiao took out a half-pack of cigarettes from his interspatial ring and lit one up. After taking 2 deep puffs, he slowly said, Dragon Vanquisher Sage, you should be aware of the consequences of my Taoist and Buddhist sects joining hands this time. The feng shui array I've arranged here absorbs the world's spiritual energy, the spiritual force of the earth veins, blood as the medium, and souls as the divine guide to eventually form a super-killing array. Even if the masters don't appear, I can still kill everyone in this array with my own power. But you can live if I come forward to protect you. You just need to give up resisting and lay down the butcher's knife. Blackface Buddha suddenly interjected. It's not impossible to spare his life, Sect Master Tang, but the joyous palace must be removed. We will never allow our Buddhist sect's cultivation art to be spread out. Further, he can be pardoned from death, but he can't escape punishment. He must return to the Buddhist sect with us and accept 100 years of imprisonment as punishment. Dragon Vanquisher Sage fell into silence and struggled inwardly. How should he choose? He had wanted to take revenge countless times in the past few years, but it was really difficult for him to surrender without a fight. Yet, was there anyone from the Buddhist sect in the vicinity under such circumstances? There was also this Tan Xiao. Although the feng shui array he arranged was powerful, he believed that he still had the ability to protect himself. However, Blackface Buddha just addressed him as Sect Master Tang, meaning that he was the sect master of a Taoist cultivation sect. How many experts from the cultivation world were here, or in the vicinity? Suddenly, a glint flashed in Dragon Vanquisher Sage's eyes and he said in a deep voice, You want me to surrender without a fight and face the wall in the Buddhist sect for 100 years? That's not a problem. But I have a request. If you can agree to it, I'll immediately make everyone give up resisting. Dragon Vanquisher Sage, you still want to make a request? Blackface Buddha angrily shouted. What qualifications do you have to make a request, Dragon Vanquisher Sage? Killing intent surged inside Tan Xiao's heart. He could vaguely guess what Dragon Vanquisher Sage wanted to ask for. However, he still asked indifferently, Tell me your request. My joyous palace saintess is missing. I raised her, so she's the closest person to me, said Dragon Vanquisher Sage slowly. I'll agree to your request if you can help me find her, and make her follow me to the Buddhist sect in China to face the wall for 100 years. Otherwise, we'll just have to part ways. If you want to kill me, I'm afraid you'll have to pay an extremely painful price. As expected, a glint flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes. He could feel Dragon Vanquisher Sage's unwillingness. After all, he had lived a carefree and happy life for so many years. How could he be willing to be imprisoned for 100 years? In Dragon Vanquisher Sage's eyes, Saintess Gongwaner's physique was like a human cauldron. Dragon Vanquisher Sage's cultivation would skyrocket once he obtained Gongwaner's body. At that time, Dragon Vanquisher Sage's combat prowess would be on par with him. At that time, no one in the entire Buddhist sect would be able to subdue him. At that time, it was very likely that the Buddhist sect would face a great calamity. It was very likely that blood would flow like a river at that time. Tan Xiao turned to look at the 18 eminent monks and slowly said, Masters, you must lay down your butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the spot. But if you lay down your butcher's knife and your heart is filled with hostility, not only will you not become a Buddha, but you'll also become a butcher's knife on Buddha's neck. The hostility in his heart is too strong, and his hatred for the Buddhist sect is too intense. Forget it. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust is the best ending for him. Blackface Buddha looked at Tan Xiao with a bewildered expression and asked, Why do you say that, Sect Master Tang? The joyous palace saintess is the target of Dragon Vanquisher Sage's cultivation, said Tan Xiao indifferently. Once he destroys her body and plunders all the energy inside her, I'm sure all masters are well aware of how much his power will soar. How many people in the Buddhist sect can restrain him at that time? Who can guarantee that he won't go on a killing spree in the Buddhist sect to avenge his brothers and sisters? Blackface Buddha's eyes narrowed and killing intent emerged again. Jade Buddha slowly nodded and said, Sect Master Tang is right. Dragon Vanquisher Sage's intention for making such a request is to be put to death. I thought he would repent sincerely, but I didn't expect him to have another scheme. The cultivation of a female cauldron is simply insane. It seems that every disciple of the Joyous Palace has fallen deeply into the demonic path and can't extricate themselves. This penniless monk will clean up this scourge for this world. A golden Vajra ring was removed from Jade Buddha's wrist. It kept growing bigger and bigger, until it was the size of a millstone in just a few breaths of time. Then, a ring of flame ignited on the Vajra ring, causing Jade Buddha's violent aura to soar. The Vajra ring had already arrived in front of Dragon Vanquisher Sage, when it was about to pounce on him. Damn. The Buddhist sect's supreme treasure, the Vajra ring? Jade Buddha, don't blame me for being ruthless since you insist on fighting this palace to the death. All Joyous Palace disciples heed my order, and go all out to kill the enemies. As long as you can kill all these enemies today, this palace will lift the seal on your bodies and give you a lot of cultivation resources. Dragon Vanquisher Sage furiously shouted, and slammed the Vajra ring with the Buddhist staff in his hand. A violent energy wave spread in all directions. Dragon Vanquisher Sage's arms were numb and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth again. His body violently retreated, but the Vajra ring was also blasted tens of meters away. Jade Buddha's body trembled and disbelief filled his eyes. He realized that his strength couldn't compare to Dragon Vanquisher Sage at all. If it wasn't for Dragon Vanquisher Sage being seriously injured, he would have been seriously injured by the blow just now. He fiercely shouted, "Senior and junior brothers, this fella has stepped into the demonic path and is much stronger than before. Let's join forces to kill them and completely eliminate this Joyous Palace." Chapter 1162. Kill. Kill. The other eminent monks turned into meteors and pounced toward Dragon Vanquisher Sage. All of them were eminent monks who had been cultivating for hundreds of years, and were naturally not weak. Even the weakest among them was comparable to a Golden Core expert. Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha, on the other hand, were comparable to nascent soul stage experts. With everyone joining hands, more than a dozen Joyous Palace disciples were killed in just a dozen breaths. Tanshio didn't participate in the battle. His figure was like a cannonball as he bolted toward the top of the mountain. He needed to control the entire array now. If Dragon Vanquisher Sage and the others had risked their lives to attack just now, they might have had a chance to escape without his support. But now it was too late. At the eye of the array, Tanshio narrowed his eyes. Through the array, he saw hundreds of Gene Camp warriors bombarding the array's energy shield in every possible way, trying to break the array and escape from this world. Then I'll kill you first. A cold glint flashed in Tanshio's eyes. After completely activating the array, the entire gazing-piercing mountain was covered in dark clouds, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Lightning bolts broke free from the thick dark clouds and bombarded hundreds of genetic warriors. At the same time, strong corrosive raindrops fell from the sky. Arg! Damn it! What the hell is this? Hundreds of genetic warriors were caught off guard, and could only watch helplessly as the lightning bolts pierced their chests and penetrated their companions' heads. Dozens of powerful experts who were comparable to Golden Core stage experts barely managed to avoid the lightning bombardment, but the raindrops still fell on their bodies. Caught off guard, the intense corrosive pain made them lose their minds, and more than a dozen of them were killed by the bombardment of lightning bolts. Halfway up the mountain, all the Joyous Palace members' complexion drastically changed. Looking at the doomsday-like environment in front of them, they felt chills running down their spines and most of their fighting spirit was extinguished. Dragon Vanquisher Sage was under the joint attack of 4 eminent monks, especially Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha. Each time he was in danger and his internal injuries worsened as the battle went on. As the bolts of lightning struck down from the surroundings, even though they affected the experts of the Buddhist sect, they affected him even more. Black-faced Buddha, Jade Buddha, you damned bastards. If this palace wasn't seriously injured, do you think clowns like you would be able to oppose me? What bullshit, eminent monks. They were just a bunch of despicable and shameless people who took advantage of others when they were down. If you have the ability, then let me recuperate. At that time, I will be able to kill all 18 of you bastards by myself. Blackface Buddha, Jade Buddha, and the others' killing intent intensified, and they no longer answered Dragon Vanquisher Sage's question. They kept casting all kinds of Buddhist arts and divine abilities, causing more and more damage to Dragon Vanquisher Sage. Tan Xiao, who had completely activated the array, returned to this place once again. His figure kept flashing like a ghost. It was a piece of cake for him to kill Joyous Palace's disciples with his strength at the spirit formation stage. As the corpses fell to the ground, Tan Xiao's figure kept appearing in various areas. 2 minutes later, Tan Xiao stabbed a Joyous Sect expert with a dagger and pushed the corpse toward Dragon Vanquisher Sage's direction. When he was tens of meters away from Dragon Vanquisher Sage, Tan Xiao kicked the corpse's chest and chased after it. Dragon Vanquisher Sage looked at his subordinate who was sent flying backward. Not only was there no worry on his face, but he also looked ecstatic instead. He blasted away Blackface Buddha, Jade Buddha, and the others with all his might and instantly appeared next to that subordinate. He wanted to escape and leave this place. As long as he recuperated from his injuries, he would look for these bald donkeys to settle the score. Puff! The divine sword split the corpse into 2 halves, and Dragon Vanquisher Sage's remaining arm was also cut off by the divine sword. At the same time, the wind currents turned into ropes and instantly bound Dragon Vanquisher Sage's legs. The moment his complexion drastically changed, the divine sword pierced his chest. Buzz! The golden core relic flew out of Dragon Vanquisher Sage's chest. Along with a furious roar, it quickly shot into the distance. A chilling glint flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes. He cast a thunder art, and a lightning bolt as thick as a bucket came crashing down from the sky. It accurately bombarded the golden core Saraira, directly engulfing it and completely destroying it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiao with a respectful look on their faces. They joined their palms together and said, "Thank you for your trouble, Sect Master Tang. I didn't expect that Dragon Vanquisher Sage's strength would have increased to this extent after not seeing him for decades. If he hadn't been seriously injured before, the 4 of us wouldn't have been his match even if we joined hands." That's right. Falling into the demonic path can indeed greatly increase one's cultivation. Dragon Vanquisher Sage has been wantonly in Japan all these years, and I'm afraid he has defiled a lot of women. It's good for his cultivation, but his Buddhist heart has been completely shattered. Now that he's dead, it can be said that the ashes have returned to the dust and the evil karma has reaped its rewards. The most terrifying thing in the world is the human heart. Tan Xiao nodded. If there's kindness in the heart, then you can become a Buddha after laying down the butcher's knife. But if there's no kindness in the heart, then it'll be a boundless hell. Just like what we often say, knowing one's mistakes and being able to mend them is the greatest. Since he knows his mistake and has no intention to repent, then we can only get rid of him to avoid future troubles. Having said that, Tan Xiao glanced around and sighed. Thousands of lives are going to be buried here. Even if I can't bear it, they're all people plagued with evil karma, so I can only free them. Sect Master Tang has a kind heart, said Blackface Buddha in a deep voice. But you're right. Whether they're from the Joyous Palace or those genetic warriors, each and every one of them has a very thick killing aura. Enough to prove that they have killed a lot of people. Those who kill will always be killed. I don't think it's a pity for them to die. On the contrary, I think they deserved it. Buddha once said that killing an evil person is equal to saving countless good people. Although Buddhism and Taoism are divided into 2 branches, the myriad great Taoists still lead to the same destination. Tan Xiao nodded. Let's kill them all, masters. Kill. Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha nodded, and their figures darted to the surroundings. Blades flashed and swords flashed as blood rained down. Tan Xiao's heart had long been tempered to be as firm as iron and stone, and he didn't show any mercy when it came to killing people. Among the people from the Joyous Palace and the Jin camp, only Dragon Vanquisher Sage and General Fukuda had the same strength as him. Now that the 2 of them were dead, Tan Xiao's killing spree was particularly crazy. Half an hour passed. 4 of the 18 eminent monks of the Buddhist sect died in the mountain forest, while the rest were injured, with 2 of them suffering serious injuries. If it wasn't for Tan Xiao's timely delivery of holy healing medicine, they would have likely died. Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha might be powerful, but the number of enemies was just too many. When the last enemy was slaughtered, their Buddhist power had been exhausted and they were riddled with scars. Take the medicine. Tanshio finally took a jade bottle and came to Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha. After handing it to them, he said, "Your injuries are not serious, but it's better to recover as soon as possible. We're now in Japan, and no one knows if there are any dangers there. The sooner we restore our strength to the peak, the better we can prevent any crisis." Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha looked at Tanshio speechlessly. They didn't even try to be modest, yet Tanshio blurted out such a long string of words. However, the two of them felt warm inside. They gave Tanshio a grateful look, took the jade bottle, and quickly took the holy healing medicine. They didn't know that Tanshio had been worrying about something else. Although the three huge intents he sensed before all came from afar, who could guarantee that they wouldn't interfere in the fight in Japan? In case they sent people here, it would be inevitable that a dispute would break out. Soon after, everyone left the gazing mountain and split into two groups, rushing toward the Joyous Palace and the Jin camp. The 14 eminent monks rushed to the Jin camp since they learned in advance that the Joyous Palace was protected by a very strong array, leaving the Joyous Palace's side to Tanshio. However, when Tanshio arrived at the Joyous Palace, he found that all the Joyous Palace's members on the island had been killed and Moao and his men had occupied the Joyous Palace. "It's a big harvest, sect master." With an excited look on his rough face, Moao came to greet him as fast as he could. Tanshio raised his brows and asked, "What harvest?" "You'll know after you come with me, sect master," said Moao. The Joyous Palace has been in Japan for decades, so their collection is simply terrifying. Let alone those precious herbs and various cultivation materials, just the gold and silver alone is shocking enough. That's right, there are also a lot of antiques and curios, all of which are good stuff. Tanshio's heart moved and he followed Moao into an antique pavilion. To his surprise, there was an elevator in this classical-style building. After the two entered the elevator, Tanshio found that there were buttons for the first, second, and third floors in addition to the first and second floors. "An underground space?" asked Tanshio curiously. Moa heavily nodded and said, "The third floor is filled with gold, silver, and jewelry. We can definitely set up a large jewelry store if we can ship all of them out. Most importantly, the jewelry store will never lack products in the next few years. The second floor is filled with antiques, precious ores, fierce beasts' bones, and so on. And the first floor is filled with all kinds of precious herbs." Tanshio was secretly looking forward to it after hearing it. What he lacked the most now was not money, but cultivation resources. After all, the Tang sect had hundreds of members, and the Child Legion they trained was a terrifying machine that consumed cultivation resources. The annual consumption of resources was a terrifying number. After a while, when the elevator stopped on the third floor, the elevator door was opened. Just as Tanshio stepped out of the elevator, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. Chapter 1163. The underground space was the size of a football field and nearly 6 meters high, supported by huge pillars. The space inside was half the size of a football field, with rows of neatly arranged cabinets with gold bricks stacked on top of them. Even though Tanshio had seen a lot of gold, it couldn't be compared to the amount in front of him. This gold is at least 100 tons. Tanshio secretly estimated, and felt that his estimation should be a lot less. On both sides of the outer space were the shelves stocked with silver. The number of fist-sized silver ingots was roughly estimated by Tanshio, and he felt that it was no less than gold. Most importantly, there were a lot of beautifully carved silverware inside. On the other side were a lot of gold, silver, and jewelry. Tanshio released his spiritual sense, and was shocked by the number of diamonds he found. Looking at Tanshio's dull expression, All proudly said, "Sect Master, you're scared, aren't you? I was also shocked when we first entered this place. Possessing so much wealth is definitely enough to rival a country. I really don't know where the Joyous Palace Master got so much wealth." "That's right." Tanshio took a deep breath and turned to look at Moao, asking, "Can you tell me what's the fastest way to make money in the world?" "Opening a bank?" asked Ao after thinking for a while. Tanshio rolled his eyes and was about to speak when he suddenly heard the elevator door open and Yuji's voice came over. The fastest way to make money in the world is naturally to be a bandit. Robbing people is just a shortcut, but robbing those rich and powerful people is a wise move. The Joyous Palace has existed for decades and has robbed dozens of rich and powerful people in Japan. It has established a huge number of companies in Japan, with more than 30 listed companies. It's a pity that there's no way to get the money in Dragon Vanquisher Sage's bank account, else boss could have become one of the world's top super rich people. Tanshio glanced at her and lightly said, "People need to be content with what they have. It's already a good harvest to get these gold, silver, and jewelry. As for the money in Dragon Vanquisher Sage's bank account, let those banks take advantage of it." "It's me who opened the Joyous Palace's array, boss," said Yuji with a smile. "Otherwise, they would still be outside trying to destroy the array. How are you going to reward me with such a great contribution?" Tanshio took a few steps towards Yuji and looked at her smiling face. The corner of his mouth slightly curved as he asked, "What reward do you want?" A chill ran down Yuji's spine. She hurriedly lowered her head and said, "This subordinate was just joking. I won't dare to object even if boss doesn't reward me with anything." Tanshio snorted coldly and lightly said, "Smart people never ask for rewards. I'll naturally reward them according to their merits if they do a good job. Since you've already spoken, I can tell you that the reward you're about to receive is a medicinal pill." With that, Tanshio took out 2 bottles of pills from his space ring and threw them to Yuji. "These pills can make your cultivation take another step forward." Yuji's face lit up and she hurriedly thanked, "Thank you, boss." Tanshio turned around and walked inside. When he released his divine sense just now, he discovered that there were a few pieces of gold that were somewhat unusual. He guessed that there was a high possibility that these pieces of gold contained gold essence. Mo walked to Yuji's side and glanced at Tanshio's back as he walked away. He retracted his gaze and gently patted Yuji's shoulder, lowering his voice and saying, "Today is a lesson for you. I hope you'll be smarter in the future." Finished. Mo chased after Tanshio. Yuji was taken aback, and a confused look appeared in her eyes. She had already received a reward, so how could it be a lesson? After thinking about it, she quickened her pace and asked in a low voice after catching up with Mo, "What do you mean?" Mo let out a faint smile and spoke in a voice that only the two of them could hear. "You're not an official disciple of the Tang sect yet, so you naturally don't know what the boss will reward you based on your merits. Since you've made a great contribution this time, I can reveal a little to you. With your contribution this time, if you didn't take the initiative to ask the boss for more, I'm afraid that the amount you got would be 10 times more than what you got now." "More than 10 times? Yuji's pupils shrunk and disbelief filled her eyes. "There's a saying in Wuxia that you learn from your mistakes." Mo sneered. "I hope you can keep this lesson in mind." Yuji's expression kept changing, and deep regret finally appeared on her face. That was 10 times more than the amount of pills. If she could get so many pills, wouldn't she be able to improve her cultivation and become more powerful in a short time? Suddenly, she seemed to recall something and caught up with Mo again, asking in a low voice, "Are there many opportunities to render meritorious deeds in the Tang sect?" "Sect master said that Earth is a peaceful world." Mo shook his head and said, "Although there are some killings, it can't be compared with other places. Therefore, some disciples of the Tang sect will have to wait for a long time to render meritorious deeds. However, you don't need to worry about it. As long as you can pass the test of sect master and successfully become a real disciple of the Tang sect, you'll be provided with a certain amount of cultivation resources every year. Additionally, you can also buy precious herbs, ores, and even fierce beasts' corpses and other resources through your own channels, and exchange them for pills from the sect." The regret in Yuji's heart eased a lot after hearing it. She had money. Moreover, the amount was very large because some of the businesses she controlled over the years could bring her huge profits every year. Moreover, it was only after she went to the Joyous Palace that she secretly kept. Inside the pile of gold, Tanshio took out the gold bricks. Although the gold had been smelted, the gold essence was not destroyed. After giving it a thought, Tanshio stored all the gold, silver, jewelry, and other items in the entire third underground floor into his interspatial ring. A few minutes later, Yuji was tongue-tied and dumbfounded as she looked at the empty third underground floor. The shock inside her heart was hard to describe. In the past, Palace Master Dragon Vanquisher Sage had obtained several magic artifacts used for storage, but it was due to his great luck that he found them in some ruins. She heard that the largest space inside those storage artifacts was only the size of a house, about a dozen square meters. However, Tanshio actually put all the gold, silver, and jewelry in the third underground floor into his storage artifact. How big is the space inside this storage artifact? At the very least, it should be dozens of times bigger than the few magic artifacts that Palace Master Dragon Vanquisher Sage obtained, right? Let's go to the next floor. Tanshio didn't linger. After all, this was not his territory, so he would never leave behind anything that could be taken away. When the elevator stopped on the second underground floor, Tanshio stepped out of the elevator and saw a large number of antiques, precious ores, and fierce beast bones. Huh. Tanshio's figure flickered and instantly appeared in front of the wall tens of meters away. He looked at the complete skeleton of the fierce beast on the ground with a surprised look on his face. As he cast a seal on the fierce beast's skeleton, a 10-centimeter-long golden bone finger floated out from the chest cavity and slowly floated in front of Tanshio. An immortal beast bone finger? Tanshio could sense the enormous immortal force contained in this bone finger. He even realized that if he could properly utilize this bone finger, not only would he be able to increase the strength of his physique by several times, but his cultivation level would also skyrocket a lot. Here, there were treasures everywhere, and any one of them could be sold for a sky-high price. But in Tanshio's eyes, the gold, silver, and jewelry on the third underground floor, as well as the other treasures here, were not as valuable as this 10-centimeter-long bone finger. Shortly after, Tanshio put all the items into his interspatial ring, and then went to the first underground floor. He didn't expect that the Joyous Palace actually had a huge reserve of precious herbs. There were even dozens of millennium-old wild ginsengs. After leaving the underground space, Tanshio, accompanied by Mo-Ao and Yuji, circled around the entire island, and found that Mo-Ao and the others had nearly plundered all the valuable things in the Joyous Palace. He even saw Mo-Ao stuff the bed of Dragon Vanquisher Sage, the Joyous Palace Master, into his interspatial ring because the bed was made of precious gold-threaded Phoebe wood. This is for you, Sect Master. Mo-Ao obviously didn't want to give the looted things to Tanshio, but there was one thing he didn't dare to keep: a chair. Its entire body was crystal clear, and was made of cold ice jade. That's a good thing. Tanshio looked surprised. It's indeed a good thing, so I didn't dare to keep it for myself. Mo-Ao smiled. Tanshio smiled and patted Mo-Ao's shoulder. He then threw a jade bottle to him and smilingly said, "This is the soul accumulating pill. I consumed a lot of herbs and barely managed to refine 4 of them. Take it now and wait until we return to Nine Dragons Island before you go into seclusion." Mo-Ao's spirit shook and he hurriedly asked, "Sect Master, the effect of this soul accumulating pill is, take this soul accumulating pill and it will greatly enhance your spiritual sense. At the very least, it will be comparable to the spiritual sense of a peak nascent soul expert," said Tanshio with a smile. Hiss! Mo-Ao couldn't help but gasp. His strength had progressed very fast, but his spiritual senses improvement was very slow. His spiritual senses intensity was even lower than his younger brother, Mo-Ao's. Therefore, what he was most eager for now was not a pill that could enhance his cultivation, but a pill that could enhance his spiritual sense. Sect Master! Warmth surged inside Mo-Ao's heart. He opened his mouth, but the words of gratitude were swallowed back into his stomach. A gentleman would die for his bosom friend. At this moment, Mo-Ao thoroughly understood the meaning of this sentence. He felt that he wouldn't even blink if Tanshio wanted him to die at this moment. Tanshio patted Mo-Ao's shoulder and smilingly said, "Cultivate well. I hope you'll always be a great general by my side." At the side, listening to the conversation between Tanshio and Mo-Ao, Yuji's eyes turned red with jealousy. As a cultivator, How could she not understand the preciousness of the soul-accumulating pill? If she could get a soul-accumulating pill, her strength would probably soar. Chapter 1164. At the square of the Joyous Palace. Tan Xiao quietly stood on a 2-meter-high square concrete platform, his eyes overlooking the surroundings. The moment he set foot on this isolated island, he was keenly aware that the concentration of heaven and earth energy here was several times richer than Japan's capital. It wasn't an array. Instead, it was a small spiritual vein beneath the island. In fact, this spirit vein led to the bottomless ocean floor. However, he was a bit curious about it. The spiritual vein beneath the island had been forcibly cut off by someone with great divine power, so it could only extend for tens of kilometers at most. Otherwise, this isolated island would definitely be comparable to some blessed lands. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Figures flickered lightning fast from all directions and quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiao. Mo Ao, Tang Guang, Kawako, He Xiong, Shuesha. All looked excited as they looked at Tan Xiao. The harvest was quite bountiful. Even Tang'an, who was hiding in the dark, let out a faint smile. Her harvest was a lot, even more than Mo Ao's. She had stuffed a lot of valuable things into the interspatial ring she got from Tan Xiao. Where's Gongwan? Finally, Tan Xiao retracted his gaze from the distance and looked at the people in front of him. She left with Kiki Tagawa and hasn't returned yet, answered Kawako. Tan Xiao furrowed his brows and slowly said, "Let's wait for another half an hour. If they don't return within that time, then we won't wait anymore." 20 minutes later, 2 figures flickered lightning fast from the distance and quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiao and the others. The 2 returned this time, each carrying 2 big black suitcases. The moment they put the suitcases on the ground, it was obvious that they were loaded with heavy things. "Where did you go?" asked Tan Xiao as he observed them. Kiki Tagawa angrily glared at Gongwan and immediately cupped his fists. "We went to the Jin camp's headquarters, boss." Tan Xiao frowned and asked, "What did he do there?" "General Fukuda has been operating in Japan for hundreds of years," said Kiki Tagawa. "We thought he must have a lot of treasures there, so Gongwan and I personally went there. While the Buddhist monks were slaughtering the remaining genetic warriors, we sneaked in and found the Jin camp's treasury. The contents of these 4 suitcases were taken from the treasury of the Jin camp. There are even more things on the shore." Tan Xiao raised his eyebrows and said, "Open the suitcase." Immediately after, the 4 big black suitcases were all opened. When Tang Xiao saw the contents inside, a surprised expression appeared on his face. It was because there was no gold or silver in these 4 suitcases. 3 of them only contained some precious jewels, jades, and some antique calligraphy and paintings. The 4th suitcase that was opened was filled with precious medicinal herbs. Even with Tan Xiao's experience, he felt that these medicinal herbs were very precious. "Well done." Tan Xiao waved his hand, and the contents of the 4 suitcases flew up and were quickly stored into his interspatial ring. Afterward, Tan Xiao took out 2 jade bottles and threw them to Kiki Tagawa and Gongwan. Then he lightly said, "You've made a great contribution this time, so these pills are your rewards. Go and bring everything here. I'll give you a big fortune later." "A big fortune?" Gongwan and Kiki Tagawa exchanged glances. Just as Kiki Tagawa was about to take the rest of the things, Gongwan suddenly said, "Boss, will Kitagawa be punished if I report him?" Tan Xiao squinted his eyes and asked, "What do you want to report him for?" Kiki Tagawa's expression drastically changed and he fiercely shouted, "Don't talk nonsense, Gongwan." Gongwan took out a chopstick-thick golden rope from her sleeve and said, "This is the treasure we got from the Jin camp storehouse. I don't know what it is exactly though. Also, Kiki Tagawa also has one, but he got a fist-sized metal ball. I don't know what it is." Kiki Tagawa's expression drastically changed, and he glared at Gongwan with hatred. Then he unwillingly said, "Boss, the thing I took from the Jin camp storehouse is mine. There's nothing special about it, but it has some meaning to me." "Take it out," said Tan Xiao. Kiki Tagawa's body slightly trembled a few times. He gritted his teeth and took out the fist-sized metal ball from his sleeve and said, "That's it. She's just an ordinary toy. A glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He looked at the small seal characters on the metal ball. A suction force suddenly appeared in his palm and sucked the metal ball from Kitagawa's hand. As he cast a hand seal, the seal characters attached to it radiated golden light and gradually turned into golden starlight. Kacha! The metal ball split into 8 pieces, and a sparkling and translucent ball the size of a ping-pong ball appeared in front of everyone. Others couldn't see it clearly, but Tan Xiu could clearly see that there was a phantom inside this sparkling and translucent ball. It was a frigid jellyfish. Tan Xiu didn't expect that such a thing would exist on Earth. It must be noted that this frigid jellyfish was a very good treasure even in the immortal world, and many super forces had it. It was precisely because of its existence that these super forces could deepen their foundation. Tan Xiu shifted to Kitagawa and slowly asked, "Do you know what it is?" Kitagawa felt that Tan Xiu's eyes seemed to be able to see through his mind. He hesitated for a moment and then braced himself to answer. "That's right. This is a Dragon Ball. General Fukuda once said that it was this Dragon Ball that made his cultivation soar. I've sneaked into his secret chamber several times before. Although I found the hiding place of this Dragon Ball, I never had a chance to steal it." "Idiot!" Tan Xiu cursed contemptuously and lightly said, "This isn't a Dragon Ball at all, but a carrier. It's a frigid jellyfish, an object that's very beneficial to all cultivators. You can choose to keep this thing for yourself, Kitagawa, or I'll give you a fortune. Choose one of the two, and I want you to give me your answer now." Kitagawa really wanted to take this thing back, but he could only endure the pain when he saw Tan Xiu's indifferent eyes and respectfully said, "I choose a fortune, boss." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Go and bring everything here. In a moment, all of you here will be able to obtain a great fortune." Having said that, he quickly flew into the distance. It took him 4 hours to set up a feng shui formation on the entire island. The feng shui formation he had set up was a heaven-defying and heaven-defying formation. It was to completely destroy the feng shui treasured land and cut off the underground spirit veins. Then it would be used to strengthen itself. Sky Pilfering Array. This array was actually created by one of Tan Xiu's disciples when he was in the immortal world. That disciple was an amazing cultivation genius who took only 3,000 years to cultivate to the golden immortal stage, and was just a step away from reaching the perfected golden immortal stage. Unfortunately, he died in a battle before he could fully grow up. He didn't even leave any trace of his life, so his soul and soul were scattered. When Tan Xiu returned to the square, he saw more than a dozen people there. Among them was a slightly hunchbacked middle-aged man, and the rest were young women in white dresses. "Who are they?" asked Tan Xiu with a frown. Yuji stepped forward and answered, "They're my trusted maids." Kitagawa followed closely behind her and said, "He's Lord Yuzhong, my trusted subordinate." Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows and lightly said, "They're no longer your maids and subordinates from today onward. The 16 of you, listen up. You now have 2 choices. First, stay on this island forever and never leave for the rest of your life. Second, become Kawako Yamamoto's subordinate and stay in Japan to work for her." Yuji and Kitagawa exchanged glances. Anger flashed in their eyes, but they didn't dare to utter a word. The 16 of them exchanged dismayed glances. They looked hesitant and didn't know what to choose for a while. As a matter of fact, they didn't know Tan Xiu at all. But they were smart enough to guess that Tan Xiu was the leader of that mysterious force when they saw their master being so respectful to him. Lord Yuzhong came to Tan Xiu and cupped his fists. Sir, I'm trained by Sir Kitagawa. He's my master. I won't dare to refute if he wants me to follow someone else, but others are not qualified to decide my decision." "Is that so?" A chilling light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. A silver needle appeared between his fingers and shot toward Lord Yuzhong in just 1/100th of a second. The speed of the silver needle was extremely fast. Despite Lord Yuzhong's formidable strength, he still couldn't resist and his chi-si was pierced by the silver needle. Puff! Lord Yuzhong staggered back a few steps and covered his abdomen with disbelief in his eyes. He could clearly feel that the power in his chi-si was quickly dissipating. He couldn't stop it even though he tried to block it with his energy. Your master chose to submit to me. Yet you dare to talk to me like this? You're really courting death, said Tan Xiao indifferently. Don't blame me for being ruthless since you don't listen to my order. You'll stay on this island forever to fend for yourself from now on. You crippled my cultivation? Lord Yuzhong glared at Tan Xiao viciously, wishing that he could immediately kill Tan Xiao. I'm sparing your life because of Kitagawa's face, said Tan Xiao coldly. Now move a kilometer away from me, else you'll turn into a corpse the next moment. Back off. Murderous intent toward Tan Xiao arose in Kitagawa's heart, but he was well aware of Tan Xiao's strength. Even if he were to risk his life, he wouldn't be able to injure Tan Xiao much. Therefore, he could only suppress his killing intent for the time being and wait for the day when he could escape from Tan Xiao's clutches to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Puff! An immortal sword pierced Kitagawa's back. Tang kicked Kitagawa and sent him flying more than 10 meters away, causing him to heavily fall at Tan Xiao's feet. She then coldly snorted and said, "You're courting death by trying to kill Grand Master." Chapter 1165. Tan Xiao indifferently watched as Kitagawa was killed by Tangin. Had the latter not taken action, he would have probably done it himself. He could tell from Kitagawa's performance that this guy was definitely an untamed wolf cub who would definitely devour his master one day. Yuji's maids watched Kitagawa being brutally killed and Yujukoan being slashed into two halves by a sword light, just as he fled tens of meters away. They shuddered and knelt before Kawako and called out, "Master!" "You don't need to call me master," said Kawako indifferently. "I'm not your master. As long as you work well under me in the future and make great contributions, I can recommend you to join the sect and become official disciples. At that time, your status may not be worse than your original master Yuji." The maids fell into silence. Not worse than Yuji. Could this be an opportunity? An opportunity for me to make a comeback and become the master? Tang Xiao glanced at the silent Yuji, and immediately drew more than 20 circles with a diameter of 1 meter on the square. Then he slowly said, "Everyone, sit cross-legged in the circle I drew and begin to circulate your cultivation art according to your cultivation technique. Remember, this is your fortune, and it's up to you how many benefits you can get. However, you need to remember one more thing. If you find that the energy in your body is too much and you can't hold it anymore, immediately stop cultivating and leave this square." Understood. Everyone didn't know what fortune Tan Xiao was talking about, but they knew that it should be beneficial to them. Activate the array. Tang Xiao stood on the cement platform, which was the core of the entire array. Under his control, the array was activated. As it operated, the heaven and earth spiritual energy from all directions instantly rushed toward the more than 20 people sitting cross-legged on the square. A huge spiritual force drilled out from the ground and poured into everyone's body on the square. What's going on? Heavens! Such a huge spiritual force. Am I dreaming? Spiritual force flooding my body. Whether it was Moao's group or the dozen or so young women in white dresses, all of them opened their eyes at this moment, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Tan Xiao frowned and shouted in a deep voice, "Restrain your mind and get rid of all distracting thoughts. All of you, hurry up and refine the spiritual energy that entered your bodies." Instantly, as if awakened from a dream, more than 20 people began to cultivate. Standing on the concrete platform, Tang Xiao could feel two streams of spiritual force pouring into his body from the soles of his feet. A huge amount of spiritual force from the earth vein was drawn to his dantian, and then injected into the empty space of the universe. Time flew by. The first planet grew larger and larger, and the second planet also began to expand. Even the third planet began to glow, showing signs of enlarging. Meanwhile, in the distant universe, there was a vast starfield with countless living beings. Countless planets trembled slightly. Colorful lights exploded from the planets, making the universe look like a fairy tale world. Who is it? What happened? Which expert is disrupting the order of this world? In that area of the star field, powerful experts with great divine powers sprang out from the planets one after another. They hovered in the universe, and their divine senses spread out like a tide in all directions. However, they could feel the life force of the planet fading away, but they couldn't determine what was happening, nor could they find any target. In the sky, the clouds dispersed, and in the blue sky, an energy column emitting golden luster directly fell on top of Tanxio's head. The huge amount of star force almost materialized, causing the entire array to be filled with a large amount of star force. Moao and the others were absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and refining the spiritual energy of the earth veins. But the surging star force around them was also directly absorbed into their bodies. Their bodies began to transform. It was a qualitative transformation. Star force. It was the largest energy in the universe, and also the energy of extremely high quality. Compared to star force, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was countless times inferior. After absorbing the star force, the true essence and Buddhist force in their bodies were faintly plated with a layer of golden light. One day later, the cultivation of more than a dozen young women in white skirts skyrocketed, and each of them was comparable to a late-stage foundation establishment realm expert. But they could no longer bear the huge spiritual energy of the earth veins, so they stopped cultivating and quickly hid outside the square. 2 days later, Moao, Tangguang, and the others got up one after another. They couldn't bear the infusion of spiritual energy of the earth veins, and quickly left the square to stabilize the realm they had just broken through. On the square, only Tanxio, Tangan and Gongwaner, who was sitting cross-legged in cultivation, were left. Moao's eyes flashed with disbelief as he looked at Tangan and Gongwaner. A sense of frustration rose in his heart. Although he had successfully broken through to the nascent soul realm, his heart was as clear as a mirror. The longer he stayed in the square, the more spiritual energy of the earth veins he absorbed, and the greater his breakthrough would be. Tangan became a cultivator more than a decade earlier than him, so she stayed in the square longer than him. But Gongwaner's strength wasn't very strong. She was at most comparable to a mid-stage golden core cultivator. But how could she continue to stay in the square and endure the huge spiritual power pouring into her body? I found something interesting. Tangguang suddenly spoke. Moao turned his head and looked at his handsome face. He frowned and asked, "What interesting thing?" "I found that only by following Grand Master can I get a steady stream of benefits," said Tangguang seriously. "Whether it's the opportunity to render meritorious deeds, or the speed of cultivation advancement, it's all thanks to Grand Master. For example, this time, Grand Master used a heaven-defying means to make us break through together. I'm now at the mid-stage of nascent soul. If it wasn't for my state of mind and physique being unable to keep up, I'm afraid I could have directly broken through to the late stage of nascent soul." "You're not at the early stage of nascent soul?" exclaimed Moao. "You're at the mid-stage of nascent soul?" "That's right," answered Tangguang with a smile. Moao turned to look at Shueisha, Heixiong, and the others and asked, "What about you guys? What realm are you at now?" "Early stage of foundation establishment." Both of them looked at Tangguang with envy and replied at the same time. Moao's heart calmed down and he sighed. "It seems that you stepped into the path of cultivation more than a decade earlier than us. Tangan is still going on. I wonder if she'll break through to the nascent soul stage when she comes out of the square." The smile on Tangguang's face froze. He shook his head helplessly and sighed. "I can't compare with her when it comes to cultivation. There's also a big gap between me and her when it comes to cultivation talent. I'll feel a bit shameful if she breaks through to the late stage of nascent soul, but I'll also be happy for her. I think it's natural for Elder Tang and to receive spiritual energy in the square for a longer period of time," said Kawako slowly. "But how could Gongwaner hold on for so long? Given her strength, she should have left the square earlier than us." "There's something wrong with her," said Tangguang. "I can probably guess why Grand Master subdued her. Kiki Tagawa once said that Gongwaner has a special physique," said Kawako. "Tangan disobeyed Sect Master's order and saved her from the battlefield. I believe she must have her own purpose." Half a day later, Tangan woke up from her cultivation and looked at Tanxio with admiration in her eyes. However, she was startled when she saw Gongwaner sitting cross-legged a dozen meters away. Her figure then disappeared and reappeared at the edge of the square. "What's going on with Gongwan?" asked Tang in the moment she came out. Tang Guang shrugged and shook his head. "Who knows? She's been cultivating inside for almost 3 days, but she hasn't come out." A strange expression appeared on Tang An's face. She pondered and then said in a deep voice, "Do you know why I was punished by Grand Master a few days ago?" "Because you saved Gongwan said Tang Guang directly. "Then do you know why I disobeyed Grand Master's order and risked my life to save her?" asked Tang An again. "Why?" asked Tang Guang with a confused look. The others also looked curious and looked at Tang An, waiting for her answer. "Grand Master's cultivation is progressing very fast and he's much stronger than us," said Tang An. "But he needs to be stronger if we want to go to that place earlier. Gongwaner's physique is very different from that of ordinary cultivators. The Joyous Palace Master, Dragon Vanquisher Sage, trained her to be a female cauldron in order to devour the power inside her body in the future, and make it his own, so that his strength can skyrocket. I'm thinking if Grandmaster can possess Gongwaner's body, wouldn't it be better for his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds?" In a flash, everyone had a thoughtful look on their faces. They all knew about Gongwaner's physique. If Tan Xiao could really obtain great benefits from her body, it would be greatly beneficial for both Tan Xiao and the Tang sect. "Grandmaster didn't agree?" asked Tang Guang slowly. "He didn't agree and even reprimanded me." Tang An nodded. "I'll report it to Master myself when we return to Nine Dragons Island. Let's see what she has to say." "No." Tang Guang's complexion changed and his eyes instantly turned sharp. "I know what you and Master are thinking," said Tang An stubbornly. "But Gongwaner is of great benefit to Grandmaster. I think Master will have the same thoughts as me when faced with such a choice." Tang Guang was silent for a moment, and still shook his head. "I may not stop you if it's someone else but you must never tell this to Master." "What if? I'm willing to be punished again for the sake of making Grandmaster stronger," said Tang An in a deep voice. "Even if the punishment is 10,000 times heavier than the previous one, I'm willing to do it." "Don't you like?" interjected Tang Guang hurriedly. "Shut up!" Tang An angrily shouted and her figure immediately disappeared. Chapter 1166. Tang Guang's expression was a bit unsightly. After a long silence, he secretly sighed and waved his hand. "Don't let anyone else in the sect know that we've broken through to the nascent soul stage. We don't want to stimulate them and cause problems in their mentality." Everyone nodded and agreed with Tang Guang's suggestion. Kawako glanced at Tan Xiao and Gongwaner in the square and forced a smile. "Honestly, I really envy you for being able to stay in Nine Dragons Island for a long time to cultivate in peace. Although I have a lot of power in Japan, and can get a lot of cultivation resources, 99% of them have to be handed over to the sect, so my cultivation time will also be affected." Tang Guang directly turned his head to the side. He didn't want to stay in Japan anymore. Although the beauties there made him happy, he wanted to become stronger more than cultivating. At the very least, he couldn't fall too far behind his younger sister, Tang An. 5 days later, Gongwaner woke up from her cultivation. The moment she floated up, she suddenly shot into the air like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, she had sprinted 100 meters. She was so scared that she almost screamed out loud. "My strength!" After landing on the ground, Gongwaner was shocked to find that her strength had increased by several levels after just one session of cultivation. Buddhist cultivators had a total of 10 levels, namely Dhyana, Enlightening, Abstinence, Minor Accomplishment, Psychic, Astral Projection, Out of Body, Great Accomplishment, Spiritual Being, and Rainbow Transformation. Gongwaner was only at the late stage of abstinence before, but after just one session of cultivation, she found that she had reached the late stage of minor accomplishment. She had once fantasized about how long it would take for her to break through to the late stage of minor accomplishment. She felt that it would take another 10 years even with the help of a lot of cultivation resources. One session of cultivation. It was worth 10 years of painstaking cultivation. Gongwaner felt a huge amount of spiritual force entering her feet, and immediately flew to the edge of the square. However, she was startled by her own speed once again. In nearly the blink of an eye, She appeared at the edge of the square and nearly bumped into Kawako, who had a strange expression on her face. "What realm?" asked Kawako curiously. Gongwaner forced a smile and answered, "The late stage of minor accomplishment." Kawako was surprised. "You improved so much in one session of cultivation? It seems you can't control your power, can it?" "Yeah, I'm not used to it," Gongwaner said with a smile. "I've also experienced this state before," said Kawako with a smile. "Fortunately, Sect Master personally gave me special training, and I finally managed to control the surge of power. You can beg the Sect Master. If he's in a good mood and thinks that you're worth nurturing, he'll probably give you special training. When you can completely control your own power, you can continue to cultivate and break through to a higher level." Special training. Gongwaner was surprised. "I'm afraid you won't be able to understand it even if I tell you now." Kawako nodded and said, "But you'll know how much benefits you can get as long as you can get Sect Master to personally train you." Mo appeared beside the two women, and indifferently glanced at Gongwan. Then he said indifferently, "Who in the Tang sect doesn't want to receive special training from Sect Master? How could someone who wasn't even an inner sect disciple of Tang sect be qualified to receive special training from the Sect Master? Let me give you a piece of advice. If you want to get special training from Sect Master, you must first make great contributions and become an inner sect disciple of the sect." Gongwaner didn't get angry and instead lowered her posture and asked, "Elder Mo, how many contributions do I need to make in order to get the qualification to become an inner sect disciple?" "You can ask Sect Master if you want to know," said Mo indifferently. The seventh day. As the curtain of night fell, Tanshio slowly woke up from his cultivation. He let out a long roar that caused the entire island to slightly tremble. His figure flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in midair. As he released a surging airflow, Blackface Buddha, Jade Buddha, and the others on a passenger ship on the coastline suddenly felt their bodies tighten. Just as they wanted to resist, a calm voice entered their ears. "Masters, I've kept you waiting. I'm Tanshio, so please don't resist." In the blink of an eye, the surging airflow was like a ribbon that wrapped around the 14 eminent monks of the Buddhist sect and brought them to the square. As Tanshio's figure landed, the array that shrouded the world was destroyed. Blackface Buddha looked surprised and observed Tanshio. He immediately joined his palms together and respectfully said, "Congratulations, Sect Master Tang, you've made a breakthrough in your cultivation. Destroying the spiritual vein here, and seizing the opportunity to break through to a new level is nothing to me," said Tanshio with a faint smile. "But the aura of the masters is much stronger, so you should have also made a breakthrough, right?" "There are many good things in the Jin camp," said Jade Buddha with a smile. "We found several items that are helpful to our cultivation, so we were able to smoothly advance further." "Sect Master Tang, have you killed all the remnants of the Joyous Palace?" Tanshio nodded and said, "My subordinates have killed all the experts who stayed behind to guard the Joyous Palace. As for whether there are still survivors of the Joyous Palace outside, I don't know for the time being. But you can rest assured that I'll send my subordinates to stay here to investigate and hunt them down. No matter how many Joyous Palace survivors there are, or how many surviving genetic warriors there are, they must die. We'll stay here together," said Blackface Buddha without hesitation. Tanshio shook his head and said, "Masters, even if there are enemies lingering at death's door, they're nothing but small shrimps that can no longer pose a threat. Therefore, masters, please follow me back to China. It won't be a problem to leave this place to my subordinates." Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha hesitated for a while, but they finally nodded silently out of trust for Tanshio. They had not stepped into modern society for many years, making them feel that they had become incompatible with it. Hence, they were willing to stay here. Tanshio then shifted to Gongwan, and Yuji and calmly said, "Since you've made your choice, then follow Kawako for the time being. I'll give you two a chance to join the Tang sect's inner sect. As long as you follow Kawako to eliminate all the remnants of the Joyous Palace and the Jin camp, and then establish the largest force in Japan, you can join the inner sect and enjoy all the benefits and treatment of inner sect disciples." Tang En's figure suddenly appeared. She looked at Tanshio and called out, "Grand Master Yu." Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt her. He knew that she hadn't given up yet, but he would never force her to do something that would harm others for his own benefit. Hence, he said in a deep voice, I'm warning you for the last time, and get rid of that unrealistic idea of yours. You're not allowed to talk nonsense to your master after you return to the sect. Tang An fell into silence. She could see that Tan Xiu was stubborn and persistent, but she was very unwilling inside. There was obviously a great opportunity in front of him that could make his grandmaster, Tan Xiu, stronger, yet he just ignored it. It was simply a big waste. The next evening, Tan Xiu and the 14 Buddhist experts parted ways in Jingmen Island. He then sent some members of the Everlasting Feast Hall to escort the bodies of the 14 Buddhist experts and 4 eminent monks back to Shaoshi Mountain. Grand Master. Donning a black robe and a bronze mask, Tang An followed closely behind Tan Xiu. What is it? Tan Xiu turned his head and asked. We're heading to Star City. Are there any powerful enemies? Asked Tang An. There are no powerful enemies. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I'm taking you to Star City to deal with some business issues of the magnificent Tang Corporation. The company is going to make a big move soon. Tang An stared blankly and hesitantly said, I know nothing about business, Grandmaster. Why did you bring me back? They're all staying in Japan, and I think I can do a lot of things there. A smile appeared on Tan Xiu's handsome face as he said, Do you think I don't know what's in your mind? I may have warned you many times, but I'm afraid you won't give up just like that. That's why I think taking you with me is the best choice. Tang An's lips squirmed a few times. She immediately stomped her feet angrily, and her figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile, and watched as the person in charge of the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ in Jingmen Island sent him the car key. He immediately sat in the driver's seat and drove to the port. Driving was the most convenient way to travel through the night, but it was somewhat inconvenient to fly with Tang An, who always hid herself. Port. At Jingmen Island's largest port, the BMW X5 followed the flow of traffic and entered a super-large cargo ship. After finding a good spot, Tang Xiu opened the door and walked out. He then came to the deck and looked at the endless sea. Your cell phone, Grandmaster. Tang An's voice floated into Tan Xiu's ears. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment, and took out his cell phone from his interspatial ring. Text messages and missed calls kept ringing. After looking through the dozens of missed calls, he found that the one that called him the most was an unknown number. Quickly, Tan Xiu learned from the text messages that the person using the unfamiliar number turned out to be Li Kai. Tan Xiu remembered that this girl was even willing to spend all of her family's wealth in order to treat her mother's illness. Tan Xiu gave it a thought, and decided to call her back. After dialing the number, he lightly said, I'm Tan Xiu. Are you Li Kai? Li Kai's pleasantly surprised voice came out of the phone. I finally got in touch with you, Divine Dr. Tang. My mother's illness is almost cured. The method you taught me is really effective. Thank you. The reason why I called you is to thank you in person. I don't think it's necessary to thank you in person, said Tan Xiu. Thanking you on the phone is enough. The reason why I called you back is to ask you how long do you think your mother can live? Li Kai was silent for a long while before she gritted her teeth and said, My mother can live for at least 20 years. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly and forced a smile. You're still young. Is it worth it? Chapter 1167. Divine Dr. Tang. Mom is the closest person to me in my life. I'll do my best even if I can let her live for another day. Thank you for the medicinal pills and the cultivation technique you taught me. I believe that I can definitely live until the moment Mom closes her eyes. I won't say anything else since you've already made your choice, said Tan Xiu. You've already thanked me, so that's it. Wait. Li Kai's voice sounded a bit anxious as she quickly said, Where are you now, Divine Dr. Tang? I want to see you. Is there anything else? Asked Tan Xiu with a frown. There's something else. It's very important, said Li Kai. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and slowly said, I'm rushing to Star City now. I need to deal with something there, so I'm afraid I'll be delayed for a long time. Come to Star City yourself if you're in a hurry. If not, Wait for me to finish my business in Star City. And then wait for me to return to Demonic City. That's right. You and your mother should still be in Demonic City, right? Yeah, she's still with Big Brother Xiaoquan, said Li Kai. I'll head to Star City right away, Divine Dr. Tang. Let's talk about it when we meet. No hurry. I'm afraid I'll arrive in Star City tomorrow afternoon, said Tan Xiao. Then I'll wait for you in Star City. After hanging up the phone, a bit of softness flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes. Through the conversation just now, Tan Xiao found that he liked the girl named Li Kai. This kind of affection had nothing to do with the love between a man and a woman, but more of admiration. She was willing to sacrifice her lifespan for her mother, which was a huge price to pay. He wouldn't dare to say that no one could do such a thing in this era, but there were definitely only a few of them. There's trouble, Grandmaster. Tang En's voice came into his ears. Tang Xiao furrowed his brows and turned his head to look around. He found that more than a dozen burly and fierce-looking men were coming from the cabin. One of the burly men was grabbing onto a skinny man's shirt, almost dragging him over. Listen to me, all of you. 20 yuan for each person's safety fee. If anyone doesn't pay up, don't blame us for being impolite. The burly man threw the skinny man on the deck and kicked him as he spoke. Tan Xiao furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Suddenly, he heard two men in leather clothing talking 7 or 8 meters away. It's those bastards again. They're blatantly extorting and blackmailing us. What bullshit security fee? You're just relying on the support of the Ouyang clan to be protected here. There's no other way. Their backer was the Ouyang family, and everyone in Jingmen Island knew how powerful the Ouyang family was. There were many passengers crossing the sea by boat, and almost all of them had been blackmailed by them. Many of them even chose to call the police, but what was the result? The police knew that they were from the Ouyang family, but they completely ignored them. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to endure it. Fortunately, these people didn't ask for much money. I'll just treat it as 2 packs of cigarettes less. Sigh, that's the only way. Listening to their conversation, Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows. He took out his mobile phone from his pocket and dialed Ouyang Lulu's cell number. After a while, Ouyang Lulu's sleepy voice came out of the phone. Who is it? Disturbing my sleep in the middle of the night. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing as he said, It's me, Lulu. After a while, Ouyang Lulu was pleasantly surprised as she called out, Dear, you're back in Shanghai? Where are you now? I'll get up and find you. I'm not in Shanghai right now. I just arrived at Jingmen Island's port. I'm about to rush back to Star City to deal with something. Anyways, I'm calling you because there's something I want to ask you. What is it? Ouyang Lulu sounded a bit disappointed, but she still asked. Tan Xiao said, There's a group of people extorting money from the passing passengers on the liner from Jingmen Island to Guangyang Province. They said that they're collecting security fees, but in fact, they're extorting protection fees. The most important thing is that they're using the Ouyang family's banner. Do you know about this? I don't know. Ouyang Lulu was confused. I used to take the liner to Guangyang Province, but I've never come across such extortionists. Do you want to call and ask? Tan Xiao said. These people's behavior is very bad. I think the Ouyang family is a big family, so they shouldn't care about money, right? Ouyang Lulu quickly said. Dear, I'll call my brother right away and ask him what's going on. If it's really their Ouyang family's people, I'll definitely teach them a lesson. If it's not because they're using the Ouyang family's banner to run amok, I'm afraid my brother will be furious. There. Ouyang family? Lulu, aren't you also a member of the Ouyang family? Tan Xiao asked with a strange expression. Ouyang Lulu was silent for a moment. Then, as though a barrel of gunpowder was ignited, she shouted. Tan Xiao, you bastard. I'm telling you now, I'm not a member of the Ouyang family. Even if I was before, I'm not now. I'm a member of the Tang family, Tan Xiao. If I marry a chicken, I'll follow the chicken. If I marry a dog, I'll follow the dog. Even if I marry a monkey, I'll still follow him all over the mountain. Cough, cough, alright. You're a member of my Tang family, alright? Tan Xiao let out a hollow laugh. Humph. Ouyang Lulu snorted and then hung up the phone. But a few minutes later, she called back. When Tan Xiao picked up the call, he heard Ouyang Lulu saying, Dear, I've figured out what's going on. My brother knows about this matter. The one who collected the security fee on the liner was a man who once saved my brother, his subordinate. That's why my brother knew about this matter, but he just turned a blind eye and didn't care about it. Tan Xiao said, tell your brother to point out another way to make money for his benefactor. Don't let that group of local ruffians mess around on the liner in the future. The Ouyang family is a big family with a big business. I'm afraid there are many forces who have been eyeing the Ouyang family, wanting to catch their family's weakness. In case someone makes a fuss about this matter, even if the Ouyang family has a big business and won't suffer a heavy blow, it will still be a bit troublesome. I understand. Ouyang Lulu nodded. After Tan Xiao hung up the phone, more than a dozen burly men came before him. The man who took the lead stretched out his hand and said with a cold face, pay up. Tang Xiao took out 20 yuan from his pocket and handed it to the man, saying, today is the last time you can collect money here. I'll give you the money so that you can consider it as the last time you've done it perfectly. Don't do anything illegal later, else the Ouyang family won't be able to protect you. The man stared blankly and instantly furrowed his brows. He looked at Tan Xiao and asked, who are you? How dare you talk such nonsense? I'm not talking nonsense. Tan Xiao shook his head. Your eldest brother saved Ouyang Lei's life, so you can run amok in the name of the Ouyang family. But have you ever thought that this will only smear the Ouyang family's face? Fuck. Who the hell do you think you are? Now that you know how powerful the Ouyang family is, who can do anything to us even if we stir up trouble? Who can do anything to the Ouyang family? A burly man behind the man suddenly raised the steel pipe in his hand. Slap. A loud slap was heard, and the burly man was immediately sent flying. Because he was close to the side of the ship, the slap directly sent him into the sea. The man in the lead and the other burly men were dumbfounded. They all heard the loud slap clearly, but they also realized that the young man in front of them didn't do anything. He didn't even move a finger. Who hit him? Was there really a ghost in the middle of the night? Tan Xiao's expression didn't change as he lightly said, as the saying goes, those who are unjust are doomed to meet their doom. Nowadays, everyone is messing around. Some people look like upper-class people, but they are smart enough to use their brains and abilities to make money. Some people are just messing around, taking advantage of their power to bully others. They are arrogant and despotic. Such people may bully ordinary people, but if they encounter some big shots, I'm afraid they will cause a big disaster. What I said, is it right? The man who took the lead ordered more than a dozen men to go to the cockpit to stop the ship and rescue people. He didn't leave and looked at Tan Xiao's calm expression. He clenched the money in his hand and asked again, who exactly are you? Are you really not afraid of the Ouyang family? I might have some concerns if it were other families, but I'm not afraid of the Ouyang family at all. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Because I also have a backer in the Ouyang family. The man frowned and asked, who is your backer in the Ouyang family? Tan Xiao thought for a while before he pointed at his nose and said, my woman, Ouyang Lulu. Ouyang Lulu. His woman? The man stared blankly for a moment before his complexion drastically changed. His body shivered a few times as he staggered back a few steps and exclaimed, you Boss Tang? Tan Xiao raised his hand to touch his face and said with a faint smile, time is really like a butcher's knife. I haven't shown myself in public for a long time, yet everyone doesn't recognize me. To be honest, it's too tiring after becoming famous. It's better to keep a low profile and relax. Plop. The man directly knelt in front of Tan Xiao and heavily kowtowed 3 times. Then he squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said with a trembling voice, Boss Tang, we brothers have eyes but failed to see. We even took money from you. Please be magnanimous and spare us on account of the fact that our boss saved your brother-in-law's life. I promise I won't come out to ask for money again. Ring, ring, ring. Just as his voice faded away, the cell phone in his pocket suddenly rang. The man looked up and looked at Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao nodded and said, get up quickly and answer the phone. The man felt as though he was granted amnesty. After climbing up from the deck, he took out his cell phone and looked at the number on the screen. After seeing that it was his eldest brother, he immediately pressed the answer button and cautiously said, Are you looking for me, eldest brother? I'm now on the liner. We'll immediately return when we arrive in Guangyang province. You're already on the liner? A man's voice came from the phone. Chapter 1168. The man in front of Tan Xiao nodded and bowed while holding a mobile phone in his hand. We're indeed on the liner, eldest brother. Do you have any instructions for calling me? Stop collecting protection fees. Bring everyone to Guangyang province. And then come back here obediently. Don't go to the liner to collect protection fees from now on. I just got a call from Brother Lei. A man's voice came from the phone. Brother Lei? Ouyang Lei? The man instantly understood that Tan Xiao must have called Ouyang Lei in advance. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Ouyang Lei to contact his eldest brother at this time. I got it, eldest brother. I just promised Boss Tang that I'll never collect protection fees again, said the man bitterly with squirming lips. Boss Tang? Which Boss Tang? A curious inquiry came from the phone. It's Divine Dr. Tang, Boss Tang. He's Miss Ouyang's man. What? An exclamation came from the phone. After a while he hurriedly said, You didn't offend Boss Tang, did you? If you did, apologize to him immediately. Even if you kneel down and beg for mercy, you must appease his anger. Ahu spoke rudely to Boss Tang and, I don't know what happened, but he was thrown into the sea, said the man bitterly. I've already apologized to Boss Tang, eldest brother. All right. Keep in mind that you must serve him like you're serving a great master. Do your best to satisfy his request no matter what it is. Also, send my regards to him. The man hung up the phone and put it in his pocket. He then looked at Tan Xiao and cautiously said, Boss Tang, our eldest brother said that we'll never collect protection fees on the liner under the Ouyang family's name anymore. Thank you for your magnanimity. Just tell me whatever you need me to do. Hi Ma-san. We'll do it for you even if I have to go through water and tread on fire. I'm fine. You can go back. Tan Xiao waved his hand. Bam! A figure heavily fell on the deck. The man was wet all over, and his body was constantly twitching. His face in particular had a bright red slap mark. It was obvious that he had just been slapped. The man's pupils contracted. If it wasn't for the fact that there were many people around, he would have thought that he had seen a ghost. His subordinate was slapped into the sea by someone, and now he flew back inexplicably. This was the strangest thing he had ever seen. However, he was also a smart person. He sneaked a few glances at Tan Xiao. Looking at Tan Xiao's indifferent expression, he guessed that this must have something to do with Tan Xiao. Therefore he nodded and bowed to Tan Xiao to bid his farewell. He then grabbed his drenched companion and ran toward the cabin as though he was fleeing for his life. The farcical time came and ended quickly. However, the hundreds of people on the deck looked at Tan Xiao with completely different eyes than before. Many of them felt that Tan Xiao looked familiar, but no one remembered Tan Xiao's true identity. Therefore, even though everyone looked at Tan Xiao with awe, no one went up to greet him. Time fleeted by. At 2:30 in the morning, the liner arrived at Guangyang's port. When Tan Xiao disembarked, more than a dozen burly men who collected protection fees bowed and escorted Tan Xiao to the shore. Only after watching Tan Xiao drive away did they secretly feel relieved. Evening. When the BMW X5 stopped outside the villa complex's gate in Star City's South Gate town, a security guard with an electric baton came to greet them. After saluting, he looked at Tan Xiao in the driver's seat and respectfully said, Sir, are you looking for someone? Or do you live here? The electronic device at the gate just checked and didn't detect the registration record of your car. Tan Xiao said with a smile, I'm the owner of this place, and this car belongs to someone else. Please register it. I'm afraid that I'll be staying here for a long time, so this car will probably come in and out frequently. Which building do you live in? Asked the security guard hurriedly. As Tan Xiao was about to speak, a security guard suddenly strode over from not far away. He looked at Tan Xiao and bowed. Mr. Tang, is it really you? Tan Xiao said with a smile. I remember you. You're Xiaohu, right? Xiaohu hurriedly said with an obsequious smile. Yes, I'm Xiaohu. Mr. Tang, our manager Long mentioned you a few days ago. She said that you haven't come back for some time. Long Xueyao? asked Tanxiu with a smile. Xiaohu said with a smile, "Yeah, it's manager Long Xiuyao. Unfortunately, she just left. She said that she had to go to the hospital. Otherwise, she would be very happy to know that you're back." Tanxiu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, "Long Xiuyao went to the hospital? What did she do there?" Xiaohu hesitated. "I don't know the specifics, but I heard that Chief Long was injured and hospitalized. She should have gone to the hospital to see Chief Long." Tanxiu's heart was shaken. He opened the door and asked, "Which Chief Long are you talking about? Long Hanwen or Long Zhengyu?" "Long Zhengyu, young Master Long," Xiaohu quickly replied. Tanxiu was silent for a moment. He took out his mobile and dialed Long Zhengyu's cell number. But after 10 seconds, the call was connected. A tired voice came out of the phone. "Tanxiu? I'm Long Hanwen." A bad premonition rose inside Tanxiu's heart as he hurriedly asked, "Uncle Long, I just heard that Long Zhengyu was injured? What happened? Also, how come you have his phone number?" Long Hanwen forced a smile and said, "You're really well informed. I didn't expect you to hear about the matter that just happened in the morning. Zhengyu was indeed injured, and his injury is very serious. He's been unconscious in the ICU since the morning. I don't know when he'll wake up." "What exactly happened?" Tanxiu asked with a sinking tone. Long Hanwen helplessly said, "Nowadays Star City is simply a jumble of dragons and snakes. It's almost a pot of porridge. Now, not to mention the common people, even the people from the government were having a headache. They wanted to solve this foul situation, but their hands and feet were tied. Alas!" For a moment, Tanxiu was silent and then asked, "Is it related to my magnificent Tang Corporation?" Long Hanwen said, "Yes. The one who injured Zhengyu is someone from the M country's Harbo group. He's an extremely arrogant guy. Although I've sent some people to arrest him, the Harbo group's people have contacted our government officials to put pressure on me." A chilling light flashed in Tanxiu's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Which hospital is Zhengyu in now? I just returned to Star City, so I'll rush there immediately." "Star City Chinese Medical Hospital," said Long Hanwen. Tanxiu hung up the phone and greeted the security guard, Xiaohu. Then he sat in the car and drove to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. At Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, inside the spacious and bright president's office, Li Longji comfortably leaned on the chair, while holding a cup of hot tea while thinking about some things. Ever since Tanxiu brought great fame to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, he made a bold move to recruit domestic and foreign medical experts, purchased a lot of modern medical equipment, and even personally visited old Chinese medical practitioners among the people, and invited them to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital to provide medical services. Even a retired Chinese medical sage was invited by him to become an expert consultant of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. And now, the scale of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital had skyrocketed several times. Even the size of the hospital was doubled, firmly pressing down on Star City's first People's Hospital. Li Longji, the president who should have retired, was jointly commended by the City Health Bureau and the Provincial Health Bureau. Even an exception was made for him to continue to stay as the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. What a pity! If Tanxiu were still in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, I'm afraid that the Provincial First People's Hospital wouldn't be able to compare with it. And that girl, Dai Xingyue, unexpectedly left Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, and only came back once in a while. Li Longji was somewhat complaining inwardly, but he was more grateful. Because Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's prosperity was entirely due to the master and apprentice duo's efforts. In Li Longji's eyes, the biggest credit was still the charity fund project of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. It was because the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's charity fund had always been fair and transparent. The flow of each sum of money would be announced in a timely manner, appearing on the LED display screen in the hospital square for everyone to see clearly. Furthermore, every patient or social citizen had the right to check all the fund's bills on the computer in the hospital's consultation hall. Therefore, it was widely praised by the society. Therefore, a large number of philanthropists and even foundations across the country would donate to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Some of them were anonymous, while some were famous. Therefore, Star City Chinese Medical Hospital would receive more than 10 billion donations every year. However, more than 90% of the funds would be used to support patients from poor families. In order to ensure that the patients were from poor families, Li Longji even set up an investigation team. Every patient who applied for the charity fund would undergo the corresponding investigation. It's time to go home and eat. Li Longji put the teacup on the desk as the temperature gradually dropped. He then stood up and stretched his body comfortably. Then he slightly moved his body and reached out to grab his coat on the hanger. Ring, ring, ring. His cell phone's ringtone sounded. Li Longji put on his coat and casually picked up the phone. Due to his identity, a lot of people who had connections with him would look for him. Even those who were not familiar with him would try every means possible to find his private number and use it as a pretext to build a relationship with him, so that their sick family members could get good care in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. The Human Relationship Society. Li Longji was not a pedantic person. He would take care of some people, but he would never cross his bottom line. Ugh! When he saw the caller's name on the screen, his body slightly stiffened. His pupils shrunk and an ecstatic look burst from his eyes as he directly pressed the answer button. Li Longji hurriedly asked, "Tan Xiao? Is it Tan Xiao?" "Presidently, it's me," said Tan Xiao. "I'm now on the way to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. If you're still in the hospital, we can meet later." Chapter 1169. Li Longji said excitedly, "You brat, it's been a long time since you last appeared. I thought you'd forgotten about me. I've been looking forward to seeing you for a long time now. I hope you can come to our Star City Chinese Medical Hospital again." "President Li, let's talk about the consultation later. There's something I need to ask you," said Tan Xiao. Li Longji's expression froze. Then he turned serious and said seriously, "Speak." "Long Zhengyu was injured and is now in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, right?" Tan Xiao said. "How is his condition? Is it serious?" "It's quite serious. I've personally examined him. 3 of his ribs are broken, and his spleen has suffered a serious blow, resulting in a slight internal bleeding. His brain nerves have also suffered a heavy blow from the outside world, and he has yet to wake up from his coma. He's not out of danger yet. Also, the most tragic thing is his family jewels. If there's no special method, I'm afraid he can forget about being a man for the rest of his life." "What?" Tan Xiao exclaimed. "His family jewels? He can forget about being a man for the rest of his life?" A look of disbelief was revealed in Tan Xiao's eyes. At the same time, a murderous intent surged inside his heart. Long Zhengyu was one of the first friends he made after returning to Earth. If it weren't for Long Zhengyu, he wouldn't have been able to develop so fast all these years. He didn't even have enough funds to buy cultivation resources in the early stage. Later on, the two of them kept in contact. Although Long Zhengyu confided in him due to his identity, he really regarded Long Zhengyu as his friend. But now, it turned out that it was because of the magnificent Tang Corporation that those foreign consortiums came, causing Long Zhengyu to be seriously injured. "I understand the situation, President Li. I'll be able to arrive at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital in about half an hour. Are you in the hospital or not? We'll talk about it then." Tan Xiao took a deep breath and spoke. "I'm at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital now. Come over," Li Longji quickly said. Half an hour later, when Tan Xiao appeared at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital and parked his car in the parking lot, he saw Li Longji rushing over with 4 middle-aged doctors in white coats behind him. "Tan Xiao." Li Longji stepped forward and held Tan Xiao's hand affectionately. Tan Xiao nodded and said, "President Li, let's go to see Long Zhengyu now. I'll take a look at his condition. If there's any way to remedy it, I'll have to go all out. Otherwise, the disability of his body will have a huge impact on his life, and it may even destroy him." Li Longji nodded and said, "He's in the ICU. I'll take you there myself. Also, by the way, let me introduce them to you. These 4 are specialists of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. They are specialists of the Neurology Department, Internal Medicine Department, Neurology Department, and Urology Department. They are also Long Jingyu's attending physicians. Tan Xiao nodded to the four people and said, I haven't been to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital for a long time. I didn't expect that the hospital has changed so much. It was much grander than before, and there were also more patients than before. I'm afraid this scale has already surpassed Star City First Public Hospital, right? Li Longji smiled and said, It's all thanks to you. Without you, I'm afraid that the current Star City Chinese Medical Hospital would still be the same as before, a pool of stagnant water. After a simple greeting, Tan Xiao was led by Li Longji to the newly built inpatient department building. Tan Xiao didn't wear a sterile suit and directly went inside. He looked at Long Jingyu, who was wearing an oxygen mask and had several tubes inserted into his body. Tan Xiao then reached out to check his pulse. A minute later, Tan Xiao reached out to pull out all the tubes on Long Jingyu's body, even the oxygen mask. He then took out a holy healing pill from his interspatial ring and stuffed it into Long Jingyu's mouth. He then injected a wisp of primal chaos force into his body to help him digest the holy healing pill. After that, Tan Xiao looked at Li Longji's group of 5 who came in wearing sterile clothes and said in a deep voice, President Li, I'll personally treat Long Jingyu. The hospital only needs to arrange the care. Are you sure you can heal him? Asked Li Longji hurriedly. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and slowly shook his head. I can heal his injuries, but I can't treat the damage to his brain unless I can find a medicinal herb. What medicinal herb? Asked Li Longji. The questioning heart flower, answered Tan Xiao. Li Longji was stunned, and the other 4 also frowned. They quickly exchanged glances and shook their heads, indicating that they had never heard of this medicinal herb. Tan Xiao forced a smile and said, Actually, I don't know where to find this medicinal herb. It's too rare and generally only grows in volcanic craters with frequent eruptions. Forget it. I'll think of other ways to make him recover as much as possible. Your medical skills are superb. I believe you can do it. Li Longji nodded. Tan Xiao didn't speak again and signaled the 5 to go out first. He then began to adjust Long Jingyu's bodily functions and used his primal chaos force to nourish his damaged body. Half an hour later, when Tan Xiao stepped out of the ICU's door, he saw more than a dozen people waiting outside. Aside from Li Longji's group of 5, the Long family, Kong Xia, and Andy were also there. Tan Xiao Jingyu, how is he? Long Hanwen stepped forward and grabbed Tan Xiao's hand. His eyes were full of expectation. Uncle Long, I've treated Jingyu's external injuries so there won't be any problem. Tan Xiao comforted him. As for the damage to his brain, I haven't figured it out yet. It's possible that he'll wake up soon and there won't be any hidden dangers. But it's also possible that his brain's nerves are damaged and will be in a coma for a long time. Don't worry, I'll find a way to wake him up as soon as possible. Upon hearing it, Long Hanwen cautiously asked, If he wakes up, will he still be able to get married and have children later? No problem. I guarantee that he'll be no different from a normal man, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Long Hanwen's hanging heart finally relaxed. A smile was also revealed on his square face as he sighed. Tan Xiao, Jingyu having a friend like you is really the greatest blessing in his life. Your medical skills are superb. I believe you'll be able to wake him up. Since he's my friend, I'll naturally go all out, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Uncle Long, there's no need for anyone to accompany him here. President Li will arrange the hospital's doctors and experts to pay attention to Jingyu's condition at all times. You can go back first. Long Hanwen thought for a moment before he nodded and said, Then we'll go back first. Call me immediately if something happens. I'll stay. I still have something to do with Tan Xiao, said Long Xiuyao suddenly. Long Hanwen stared blankly for a moment. He looked at his niece with a strange expression, and then looked at Tan Xiao. Suddenly he said with a smile, It's good that something happened. Xiuyao, you accompany Tan Xiao well. No matter what request he has, you must try your best to satisfy him. Everyone present was a smart person. Upon hearing Long Hanwen's words, they all revealed a smile full of deep meaning. However, when Andy quickly squeezed to Tan Xiao's side and held Tan Xiao's arm, whether it was Long Hanwen or the surrounding people, the smile on their faces froze. Tan Xiao secretly forced a wry smile inwardly. After sending off Long Hanwen and the others, he let Li Longji and the hospital's experts and doctors busy themselves. Then he looked at Long Shuiyao and asked, "What's the matter that you're looking for me for?" Long Shuiyao hesitated for a moment before she said, "The day after tomorrow, can you go with me to my friend's wedding ceremony?" "You want me to go with you to your friend's wedding ceremony?" Tan Xiu was confused. "Are you looking for the wrong person? You should look for your boyfriend for this kind of thing." "I don't have a boyfriend, and it's not what you think," said Long Shuiyao with a wry smile. "My friend is a bit special. You may be able to cure her illness if you go with her. Come to the hospital to see a doctor," Tan Xiu said. Long Shuiyao glanced at Kong Xia and Andy and said, "Her situation is very complicated, and it's not convenient for me to explain it to you now. You just need to tell me whether you can accompany me or not. The time will be very short, and it will only delay you for a few hours at most." Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and then said, "I can't promise you for the time being. Long Zhengyu was seriously injured, and my magnificent Tang Corporation is responsible for it. I need to solve this matter thoroughly. So be it. Wait for my reply tomorrow night. If I can spare some time the day after tomorrow, then I'll promise you, all right?" "All right." Long Shuiyao understood Tan Xiu's intention. She nodded and said, "Then I'll wait for your call tomorrow night. Goodbye." Tan Xiu watched Long Shuiyao's back disappear at the corner of the corridor in front of him. Then he retracted his gaze and asked with a frown, "Kong Xia, what's the situation with those foreign companies now?" Kong Xia forced a wry smile and said, "Our products have been dismantled and looking for distributors. Suddenly, businessmen from all over the world seem to have rushed here. We only have a few products, but the number of companies has exceeded 200. Among them, only God's Nectar alone has more than 100 large companies wanting to cooperate with us. The most important thing is that all of them are waiving their checks. Even if our company's request is a bit excessive, they are willing to cooperate." Tan Xiu sighed. "Our magnificent Tang Corporation is like an old hen that can lay golden eggs in front of those world-class large companies. Whoever has the ability to board the ship of our magnificent Tang Corporation means that a lot of money will fly into their pockets. However, as for the company that injured Long Zhengyu, kick them out of the company." "It's been excluded," said Kong Xia. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Sort out all the information about those companies and give it to me later. We'll discuss it after I'm done." There was a saying. What he didn't say here was that many world-class large companies were secretly controlled by cultivators. Especially their enemies. They must never do business with them. Otherwise, it would have a huge impact on the business in the future. Chapter 1170. Southgate Town. After Tan Xiu came back with Kong Xia and Andy, the three of them went into the study room and carefully studied the information prepared by Kong Xia in advance. Although Tan Xiu now had a lot of wealth, he still had to plan for the future. After all, money was the minimum foundation if he wanted to develop. 2 o'clock in the night. Tan Xiu's group of three ended their discussion. Although they had done a round of screening, there were still a lot of companies left. Even the details of those companies had yet to be investigated. "Boss, are we going to send our own people to investigate? Or are we going to ask those famous international investigation companies to investigate?" Andy was an extroverted person, but she was a bit unusual tonight. Aside from some of her own thoughts, she rarely spoke. "I don't trust those international investigation companies," said Tan Xiu. "Maybe those investigation companies have a deep relationship with some companies, and it's even possible that the boss behind them is the same person. Therefore, I'll personally send someone to investigate these companies." "I'm afraid you won't have much time if you send someone to investigate," said Kong Xia. "If it was before I went to Japan, I might be worried about the lack of funds in the later stage. But now, I don't have to worry about it," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "What's more, the HQ and the industrial park in Shanghai haven't been built yet, and they can't be put into use in the next year. Therefore, the output of our various products will definitely not be much. Therefore, even if we sign a contract with some foreign companies, the delivery date of the products must be at least a year later." You went to Japan, did you make a fortune again? Asked Kong Xia curiously. Tan Xiu thought for a moment before he took out a set of jewelry from his interspatial ring and handed it over to Kong Xia. He then said with a smile, "My harvest is huge. Anyone who sees that wealth will be shocked. This set of jewelry is one of them. I'll give it to you." It's so beautiful. Kong Xia's eyes lit up. She usually didn't like to wear precious jewelry, but she was deeply attracted by this set of jewelry. There was a gem-inlaid crown, an imperial green jadeite necklace, blue diamond earrings, a beautifully shaped diamond ring, and a jade bracelet. Kong Xia didn't know the value of jade, jadeite, and diamonds, but she estimated that the total value of this set of jewelry was definitely not less than 10 digits. "Boss." Andy's voice was soft and hesitant as it came out of his mouth. Tan Xiu turned to look at Andy and found that she was looking at the set of jewelry in Kong Xia's hand with eyes full of longing. He immediately smiled and said, "Tell me why you're not happy tonight and I'll have yours." Andy's face stiffened. After hesitating for a while, she stammered, "I want to drug you, but I'm afraid you'll be angry." "Drugged?" Tan Xiu was stunned, and even Kong Xia had a strange look on her face. Andy took a deep breath and plucked up her courage to say, "I like you, boss. I've never seen a man more outstanding than you. Every time I see you, I'm very happy. After not seeing you for a long time, I miss you. Boss, although my level is not as high as the boss, I feel that I have the right to pursue happiness. Boss is already your woman. I want to be your woman too." Ahem. Tan Xiu coughed twice and directly took out a set of jewelry from his interspatial ring. After handing it over to Andy, he said, "I have too many women. Following me is tantamount to wasting your time. Andy, your beauty is no less than Kong Xia's, but you two are two different types. Therefore, I think you should pursue your own happiness and find a man who wholeheartedly loves you." Andy stubbornly shook her head and said, "Boss can find happiness with you, so can I." Tan Xiu looked at Kong Xia and said, "You enlighten her." After saying that, he strode toward the outside of the study. Realizing that Kong Xia might not sleep with him tonight, he went back to his bedroom, washed up, and went to bed. The next morning, when the first wisp of sunshine rose from the east, Tan Xiu woke up from his sleep. It was rare that he didn't get up early to cultivate. After slowly sitting up, he picked up the mobile phone from the bedside table and dialed Hao Lei's cell number, saying, "Come to Star City to see me as fast as possible. Also, announce the news in the name of Grand Fortune Jewelry that on December 1st, Grand Fortune Jewelry will hold a large-scale auction in Shanghai. We sincerely invite all the local tycoons who like gold, silver, jewelry, and antiques from all over the world. Also, remember to make the gimmick loud and clear. Announce to the outside world that all the guests participating in the auction can use at least 9 digits of funds. This is the minimum threshold." Hao Lei exclaimed, "Sovereign, isn't the threshold a little too high to be able to use the funds of at least 100 million yuan? There may be a lot of billionaires, but you're asking for funds that can be used. It's equal to liquid capital. Do we have so many good things to auction? You don't need to worry about the auction items. You'll know everything when you come to Star City," said Tan Xiu. Hao Lei knew Tan Xiu very well. He never did anything he wasn't sure about, so she said, "Sect Master, I'll immediately leave for Star City and spread the news on the way. I guarantee that all the rich people in the world will know about this unprecedentedly grand auction." "That's right. Do you have any requirements for the publicity funds?" "I'll give you 1 billion, said Tan Xiu. Hao Lei's breathing turned a lot heavier as she said in a deep voice, 1 billion is enough, Sect Master." Tan Xiu hung up the phone and got up to wash up. Just as he came to the hall on the first floor, he saw Kong Xia sitting on the sofa and reading some documents, while the smell of food wafted from the kitchen. When Tan Xiu glanced at the kitchen, he was surprised to see that the one cooking was not the housekeeper, but Andy, who was wearing an apron and humming a pop song. "What's going on?" Tan Xiu walked to the front of Kong Xia with a strange glint flashing in his eyes. A faint smile outlined on the corner of Kong Xia's mouth as she said, "It's nothing. I tried to persuade Andy yesterday, but the result wasn't good. So, I told her that if she really wants to be your woman, She must be able to go up to the main hall and go down to the kitchen. She has no problem with the main hall. She has been traveling with me all these years, so she has a lot of experience and can take charge of things by herself. But the kitchen? Tan Xiao blinked and asked with a strange expression. She doesn't know how to cook. I'm not 100% sure, said Kong Xia with a playful smile. In any case, I've never seen her cook for so many years. Tang Xiao's heart lightened and a smile appeared on his handsome face. He raised his thumbs up and praised. That's a great idea you have there. As long as she doesn't know how to cook, she'll be able to retreat in the end. Kong Xia, find some outstanding young talents for her, when you have the time. I'm sure she'll like one of them. The smile on Kong Xia's face turned thicker. She didn't answer Tan Xiao's words, but shifted her beautiful eyes to the kitchen instead. She could already smell the faint aroma of the dishes. Suddenly, Tang En's figure appeared out of thin air. She didn't even glance at Kong Xia and directly cupped her fists toward Tan Xiao. Long Hanwen is here, Grand Master. Tan Xiao nodded and walked out of the hall. Just as he came to the courtyard's entrance, he saw Long Hanwen getting out of the car with a murderous look on his dignified face. Uncle Long Hanwen nodded and said, There's something I want to discuss with you, Tan Xiao. Let's go inside and talk, said Tan Xiao. Quickly, both of them appeared in the study room on the second floor. As soon as they took a seat, Kong Xia came into the guest room with fragrant tea. She personally poured the tea for them and closed the door from the outside as she left the room. Long Hanwen retracted his gaze from the door and sighed. Kong Xia is a good woman. You're truly blessed. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, Uncle Long, you didn't come here just to praise Kong Xia, did you? Long Hanwen's expression turned solemn as he looked at Tan Xiao and asked, May I know how you're going to solve the issue with the Harbo Group of Country M? Kong Xia has already informed the Harbo Group of Country M that the magnificent Tang Corporation will never do business with them, answered Tan Xiao. Long Hanwen furrowed his brows and asked, Is that all? What do you think, Uncle Long? Asked Tan Xiao with a meaningful expression. Long Hanwen was silent for half a minute, and then said with a bit of killing intent, The one who seriously injured Zheng Yu must be punished. Although I've sent my men to cripple him and he's still in custody, the one who ordered him to hit Long Zheng Yu is someone else. I won't be able to swallow this anger if I don't make the other party pay the price. Uncle Long, the reason why you haven't dealt with the instigator should be because of the magnificent Tang Corporation, right? Asked Tan Xiao. That's right, answered Long Hanwen directly. Tan Xiao took a deep breath and his expression turned serious. Then he said with all seriousness, I accept your kindness, Uncle Long. Since the other party has seriously injured Zheng Yu in our territory, we can't end this matter so easily. However, the reputation of the magnificent Tang Corporation needs to be maintained, so we can't retaliate openly. What's your plan? Asked Long Hanwen. There are too many companies from all over the world who want to cooperate with my magnificent Tang Corporation, said Tan Xiao with a sneer. There are 17 of them in Country M alone. Ever since these 17 companies came to Star City, they seem to be in harmony with each other on the surface, but they have been fighting openly and covertly in the dark. Kong Xia gave me some information she sorted out last night, so I know that the Harbo Group has been in conflict with the other 3 companies in private, and they have always had the upper hand. If those 3 companies can join hands to deal with the Harbo Group, I'm sure the Harbo Group won't have a good time. I can guarantee that all the people from the Harbo Group, especially the instigator behind the scenes, will never be able to leave Star City and China unscathed. Sorry, there's an important reception event today, so I'm done with the update. Please forgive me. I'm still looking for monthly votes and recommendations if you don't have them. Thanks, brothers and sisters. Chapter 1171. In just half an hour, Tan Xiao had explained all his plans and discussed it with Long Hanwen. Finally, they finalized a perfect plan. Are we having breakfast here, Uncle Long? Asked Tan Xiao with a guilty conscience after discussing the proper business. Since we've made the plan, then I'll go back and prepare ahead of time. Long Hanwen shook his head. On the way here, the City Public Security Bureau's leaders and the Harbo Group's people have arrived at my residence. I'll deal with them first and wait for your arrival. Alright. Tan Xiao felt relieved inwardly, and sent Long Hanwen out of the house with a smile on his face. When Tan Xiao returned to the living room on the first floor, he saw Andy coming out of the kitchen wearing an apron. What made Tan Xiao laugh and cry was that Andy's delicate and lovely face had some pot ashes on it, making her look very distressed. She doesn't look like someone who can cook. Tan Xiao secretly laughed inwardly, yet he maintained his composure on the surface and lightly said, Andy is good. You even took the initiative to make breakfast. Have you already prepared it? I'm already hungry. Andy glanced at Kong Xia and stammered. Are you going to keep your word, boss? I may not be the emperor, but I've always been a man of my word. Tan Xiao nodded. Upon hearing it, Andy immediately asked, Kong Xia said that if I want to be your woman, I must be able to go to the main hall and cook in the kitchen. She also said that if I can cook, you'll agree to let me be your woman. I want to know if you're going to keep your word or not. Tan Xiao turned his head to glance at her, and saw her nodding at him with a smile. Then he slowly said, I've eaten a lot of exotic delicacies, and ordinary dishes are simply hard to swallow in my eyes. If you can't cook, then just give up on this idea. Andy pretended to be angry. You haven't eaten yet. How do you know my cooking isn't good? Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment as he carefully sized her up a few times. He found that her eyes were erratic, and had a guilty look on her face. Then he said, If your cooking is really good, then I'll consider it. But if your cooking is bad or just average, then listen to Kong Xia's arrangement, and seize the time to go on a blind date, and find a boyfriend. Kong Xia interrupted and said, Boss, if you don't kill Andy, she won't give up. You don't want to be pestered all the time, do you? Tan Xiao thought about it, and felt that Kong Xia's words made sense. However, he was still a bit worried. He released his divine sense and quickly covered the dining room. He found that there were already 4 dishes on the dining table. What made him secretly amused was that the appearance of the 4 dishes was too horrible to look at. Especially the fish. The skin was black and clearly burnt. Andy, if I like your cooking, then I'll accept you. But if I'm not satisfied with your cooking, then we'll never talk about this matter again. It proves that we're not fated to be together, Tan Xiao said seriously. This all right. Andy turned around. Her somewhat pitiful expression suddenly turned into a smiling face like a blooming flower when Tan Xiao couldn't see it clearly. Even her footsteps were very light. After taking Tan Xiao and Kong Xia to the dining room, she personally scooped the boiled soup from the clay pot, and served a bowl of rice to Tan Xiao and Kong Xia. Then she sat opposite to the two and said, Taste it and tell me your real feelings. Kong Xia smiled and picked up the chopsticks. While picking up the food, she smilingly said, I'm the witness, so I'll definitely tell you my real feelings. After saying that, she picked up a piece of sour and spicy shredded potato. After a while, an arc outlined on the corner of her mouth as she looked at Tan Xiao and said, This potato is pretty good. Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and also picked up a piece of sour and spicy shredded potato with his chopsticks. When he put it in his mouth and chewed it a few times, his expression instantly froze. This taste is good. Even though Tan Xiao was accustomed to eating exotic delicacies, he still felt that this seemingly terrible sour and spicy shredded potato actually tasted really good. After a while, after swallowing the sour and spicy shredded potato, he calmly went to pick up other dishes. Andy hurriedly asked, How is it? How's the taste? I just tasted it, Tan Xiao said. I only tasted one dish, so I won't comment on it for the time being. After I've tasted it, I'll give a final evaluation. Andy and Kong Xia glanced at each other, and then revealed a smile at the same time. Subsequently, Tan Xiao tasted the sweet and sour pork ribs, steamed egg drop, and sweet and sour carp. When he tasted the 3 dishes, his face nearly turned green. I failed miserably in an easy task. This was the most powerless groan Tan Xiao could mutter inwardly. He really couldn't understand Kong Xia now. Because of her rotten idea, he actually fell into this trap. Each of these 4 dishes could be regarded as the best main dishes if they were to be served in star-rated hotels. Even if he had eaten a lot of good food, he still had to admit that Andy's cooking level was really very high. Kong Xia put down her chopsticks and smilingly said, I'll talk about my opinion first. I think Andy's dishes may look ordinary, but the taste is really great. Even some great chefs may not necessarily be better than Andy's dishes. Tan Xiu's mouth twitched twice. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Andy looked expectant as she looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "Boss, you haven't commented yet." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and helplessly asked, "Andy, have you really never cooked before?" An innocent look appeared on Andy's face as she looked at Tang Xiu with her big watery eyes and said, "I did. I have a special grade chef certificate. I've studied a lot of Chinese cuisine recipes and cooked a lot of delicious things." "That's right, I used to be a chef in a Michelin 3-star restaurant." Tang Xiu's jaw dropped. Andy's words made him choke back his words. "Kongxia." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and angrily shouted, "Are you deliberately teasing me? What the hell is going on in your head? Is it really fun to dig a trap for me to jump into?" Kongxia deliberately revealed an aggrieved expression and said, "You can't blame me, boss. Andy knows the world-class fashion designer, Avril. She's also a very close friend of hers. She promised me that she would give me 2 sets of the latest clothes designed by Avril." Fuck. Tan Xiu was dumbfounded. He never dreamed that he would be sold for 2 sets of clothes. Star City. The Imperial Dragon Manor was a newly built villa complex in Star City's new city. The most spectacular building was the King of Scenic View, which was bought by the Long Group's Long Hanwen. If the best villa district in Star City was the South Gate town in the past, then the most amazing villa district now was the Imperial Dragon Manor. Villa number 1. Long Hanwen's car had just parked in the courtyard when he saw Vice Mayor Li Yuetao, the newly appointed Public Security Bureau Chief Jiang Fei, and the M Country's Harbo Group's general manager in China, William, sitting in the pavilion and sipping tea. Around them were 4 burly men in suits who were indifferently guarding them. "Mayor Li, Chief Jiang." Long Hanwen walked over and greeted them. Li Yuetao and Jiang Fei stood up. Even William followed suit. Li Yuetao said with a smile, "Chief Long is very busy. I hope Premier Long can forgive us for disturbing you so early. There's a lot of pressure coming from the top, so I have no other choice." Long Hanwen said with a cold face, "Vice Mayor Li, I know the purpose of your visit and what you want to say. Let's not talk about this matter. Also, I hope you can understand that I don't have much time to accompany you since the 3 of you know that I'm very busy." After saying that, he then turned around and walked toward the villa. A forced smile appeared on Li Yuetao's face. He exchanged glances with Jiang Fei and then chased after Long Hanwen alone. After walking side by side with Long Hanwen, he forced a smile and said, "Chief Long, this matter is indeed the Harbo Group's fault. I'm afraid I'd also be very angry if I were you. But it has happened and Cal Solent has been locked up by you for a day. Shouldn't the anger in your heart be appeased? This time, William has come personally with great sincerity. He wants to discuss a solution with you." "Discuss a solution?" Long Hanwen snorted angrily. "Are you kidding me? My son is still lying in the ICU of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, and his life and death are still unknown. Do you think I'll let this matter go so easily? This matter can be discussed if my son can recover. But if something bad happens to him, I'll make that Cal Solent pay for my son's life." Chief Long, the Harbo Group is one of the top 50 companies in the world and has invested tens of billions of yuan in the southern part of our country. Li Yuetao sighed. Cal Solent's father is a major shareholder of the Harbo Group. If we can't solve this matter well, the consequences will be very serious. It may even affect the Harbo Group's future investment in our country. Give me some face, and give our country some face. Let's forget about this matter. You can rest assured that the Harbo Group will definitely compensate you handsomely." Long Hanwen was silent for a while and then said, "Vice Mayor Li, you can go back first. I'll think about this matter. It's impossible for me to let him go now." Li Yuetao was an official in the government, so how could he not understand the meaning behind Long Hanwen's words? The man simply didn't want to give him face. However, he wasn't angry because he understood Long Hanwen. After all, the man's most cherished son was beaten to a pulp. Given Long Hanwen's status, how could he let this matter go? This is troublesome. Li Yuetao forced a wry smile inwardly and finally said, "If so, then I'll wait for Chief Long's good news." When Li Yuetao returned to the gazebo, he saw two pairs of eyes looking at him and helplessly forced a wry smile. "I'm afraid this matter won't be that easy to solve, William. Chief Long's son is still lying in the hospital and may die at any moment. Speaking of which, even if you're a foreign investor, even if Chief Long didn't personally send his men to detain Cal Solent, I'm afraid the Public Security Bureau will arrest him. So let's put this matter aside for now. Chief Long is now in a state of anger. Maybe his anger will disappear after his son's injury is healed. At that time, we can plead for leniency and solve this matter smoothly." Chapter 1172. The enmity between the Harbo Group and the local tyrant, the Longshore Group, had spread like wildfire in Star City in just one day. Not only did the major companies from all over the world come to Star City to seek cooperation with the magnificent Tang Corp learned about it, but even the common people also learned about it. Everyone. They had already moved their stools and were waiting to watch this once-in-a-century show. Countless pairs of eyes were staring at the Imperial Dragon Manor where the Long family was located, the Long Group's HQ, and even the Long's dining hall where the Harbo Group's head lived. At the same time, the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ and even Kong Xia's villa complex were also targeted by countless people. The news that Star City's Vice Mayor Li Yuetao, the City Public Security Bureau's Director Jiang Fei, and the Harbo Group's head in China, William, went to the Imperial Dragon Manor together spread out in a short time, causing countless pairs of eyes to fixate on the Imperial Dragon Manor, waiting for the outcome of the good show. It failed. When the three of them left the Imperial Dragon Manor, all the forces were in an uproar. No one believed that Long Hanwen was so arrogant that he didn't even give face to a high-ranking government official. What's more, he didn't expect Long Hanwen to be so unyielding. It was obvious that he wanted to go all out against the Harbo Group. However, at this time another piece of news quickly spread throughout Star City. Tan Xiao, the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, had just returned to Star City. It was rumored that Tan Xiao and Long Jingyu, the young master of the Long Corporation, were very good friends. Long's dining hall. William, the head of Harbo Group in China, had just returned to the hotel and was about to call the group's major shareholder, Cal Solent's father, when he heard a hurried knock on the door. "Come in," William said in a deep voice. After a while, a dark-skinned middle-aged man pushed the door and entered. He came to William and reported, "Sir William, I just got the news that the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiao, has just returned to Star City. Rumor had it that Mr. Tang had a good relationship with Long Zhengyu of the Long Group. If my guess is correct, he should have come back specifically for Long Zhengyu." William's expression turned extremely unsightly in an instant. He had received a notice from the magnificent Tang Corporation that they refused to cooperate with the Harbo Group. Now that the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation had returned, it was likely that he was standing in the same camp as the Long Group. However, what about that bastard Solon? Although he was the one who sabotaged the cooperation between the company and the magnificent Tang Corporation, he was also the one who instigated it. If he were to immediately leave China with his team, Cal Solon's father would never let him off. What to do? William, who had wanted to call Sol's father, hesitated. He wasn't in a hurry to answer his subordinate's question. Instead, he lit up his cigar irritably. As he smoked, he pondered, hoping to come up with the perfect solution. Ring, ring, ring. Just when William was at his wit's end, the phone that he had left on the table suddenly rang. When he grabbed the phone and saw that it was an unfamiliar number, he hesitated for a moment, but still answered and asked, "I'm William, who is this?" "I'm Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao of the magnificent Tang Corporation." A calm voice came from the phone. William stared blankly and suddenly had a bad premonition. He hurriedly said, "Hello, Boss Tang. I'm really pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect that you would call me." "God, it's my pleasure. I already know about the matter between your Harbo Group and the Long Group, Mr. William," said Tan Xiao. "I may be friends with Long Jingyu, but you also came here for my company. I won't just sit idly by since something happened to you in Star City. If it's convenient for you, I hope you can come to the magnificent Tang Corporation immediately. Let's meet and have a chat. All right, I'll be there right away. William hung up the phone with a confused look on his face. What's going on? The magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiao, didn't call me just to make things difficult for me? Instead, it seems like he wants to help me? At the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ, when 4 black Mercedes-Benz cars slowly stopped at the entrance of the building, many people coming in and out looked at them. Although there were a lot of fleets coming to the company these days, each wave of fleets coming to the magnificent Tang Corporation always attracted a lot of attention. What's going on? Many people who were entering and exiting the place opened their mouths wide when they saw what happened next. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. It was because the goddess in their eyes, Kong Xia, the general manager of the magnificent Tang Corporation, quickly got out of the second Mercedes-Benz and quickly went to the other side and opened the door herself. Who could have such a big face? Who could make Kong Xia, the general manager of the magnificent Tang Corporation, open the door? However, when Tan Xiao's figure got out of the car, the shock that many people who knew Tan Xiao's identity instantly vanished without a trace. Although Tan Xiao had always been elusive, and Kong Xia had always been in charge of the magnificent Tang Corporation's business affairs, he was, after all, the magnificent Tang Corporation's boss. Perhaps only Tan Xiao had the qualifications to make her open the door in this world, right? 20 minutes later, the news that Tan Xiao, the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, entered the company's HQ was known by countless well-informed people. However, just as everyone was speculating what Tan Xiao would do after returning to the company, many people were filled with incredulity. It was because William, the general manager of the Harbo Group in China from Country M, led several of his men and hurriedly entered the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ. Even the security guards at the gate did not stop them. On the 18th floor of the building, Tan Xiao was sitting quietly in the reception room with a cup of hot tea in his hand. He looked at the restless William, who was sitting in front of him. After a long silence, he slowly said, "Mr. William, I already know everything about you and the Long Group. To be honest, I'm very dissatisfied. You came to China and Star City to discuss business with my magnificent Tang Corporation, not to pick a fight and clash with the local bullies. Your actions will bring serious damage to our magnificent Tang Corp's reputation." "It's not that serious, is it, Boss Tang?" asked William with a forced smile. "How can it not be that serious?" Tan Xiao sneered. "Everyone knows that your Harbo Group came from my magnificent Tang Corporation. Don't tell me it won't affect my company's reputation by making trouble here? If all the other companies act like your Harbo Group and stir up trouble in Star City, I'm afraid the common people in Star City will curse my company for attracting robbers, no?" William was left speechless. Although Tan Xiao's words were not pleasant to hear, he knew that it made sense. If the heads of all the major companies in the world were to cause trouble in Star City, it was very likely that the magnificent Tang Corporation would be cursed by countless people. At that time, the reputation of the magnificent Tang Corp would be greatly affected. "You got nothing to say?" asked Tan Xiao lightly. "What Boss Tang said makes sense," said William bitterly. "It's indeed our fault in this matter. Please forgive us, Boss Tang. My Harbo Group will issue an announcement later to apologize to your magnificent Tang Corporation and the Long Group. Do you think you can help us get Cao Solin back from the Long Corporation? I think it's best for you to hold a press conference before we go to the Long Group to get him back." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Let's announce the apology to the public. Only in this way can I help you find the big boss of the Long Group, Long Hanwen." William opened his mouth and immediately turned to the secretary next to him. "Draft the apology immediately and hold a press conference to apologize to the magnificent Tang Corporation and the Long Group through the media." "Understood." As William's secretary left, Tan Xiao suddenly became enthusiastic. Although William didn't want to give up and wanted to talk about some cooperation with Tan Xiao kept playing Taiji in front of him and didn't answer his question at all. 2 hours later, the Harbo Group's apology press conference came to an end. The situation made everyone who paid attention to the incident a bit puzzled. It was understandable that the Harbo group apologized to the Long group. After all, their people had seriously injured the Long group's young master, Long Zhengyu. But why did they apologize to the magnificent Tang Corporation? Just because they came for the magnificent Tang Corporation. Yet they apologized for such a trivial matter of reputation? Shortly after, all the forces heard the news that the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiu, and the Harbo Group's head of China, William, left the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ and rushed to the Imperial Dragon Manor. At the Imperial Dragon Manor, at home, Long Hanwen was reading the company's documents and constantly answering phone calls. Some of them were calling to express their concern for his young master, Long Zhengyu, while some were calling to plead for leniency. Of course, there were also some who were as angry as Long Hanwen. In short, at this time, countless forces and people had their own ulterior motives, and were waiting for the next good show to be staged. Knock knock. The study's door was knocked as Long Hanwen's secretary came in and respectfully reported, "Boss, Mr. Tang and William of the Harbo Group are here." Long Hanwen slowly got up and walked out of the villa's hall. Then he saw Tan Xiu and William standing in the courtyard. He didn't even glance at William and walked toward Tan Xiu. He squeezed out a smile and said, "Why are you here, Tan Xiu? Don't tell me you're also a lobbyist for some people?" "Uncle Long, I can only get straight to the point since you mentioned this matter now," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "No matter how wrong the Harbo Group's people are, they still came for my magnificent Tang Corporation, so I hope Uncle Long can give me some face and release that Suluan bastard." "You and Jingyu are friends, Tan Xiu." Long Hanwen frowned and said, "He's seriously injured and hospitalized and is still unconscious. How can you still speak for outsiders?" "Uncle Long, I may hate them, but this matter is still related to the magnificent Tang Corporation," said Tan Xiu with a helpless expression. "Haven't you heard about it? My company has notified them that we refuse to cooperate with them because of this matter." Chapter 1173. In front of Long Hanwen, Tan Xiu nearly exhausted all his words, coaxing and pestering him with all kinds of flattering words. Yet Long Hanwen didn't loosen his grip. At the side, even an experienced and knowledgeable person like William secretly felt a bit grateful for Tan Xiu's dedication in handling this matter. "Tan Xiu, you don't need to say any more. My son is seriously injured, so he must pay a painful price." Long Hanwen clenched his fists and spoke with a gloomy expression. Tan Xiu exchanged glances with William. Then he gritted his teeth and stretched out a finger, saying in a deep voice, "Uncle Long, since you want them to pay the price, then I'll pay the price. 100 million as compensation for Jingyu's medical expenses. What do you think?" Long Hanwen squinted his eyes and sneered. "My Long family may lack everything, but we're not short of money." 200 million. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. Long Hanwen was silent for a moment and then sneered. "I told you that my Long family is not short of money. 200 million is nothing to my Long family." Tan Xiu's eyes turned a bit red as he shouted, 1 billion. This is the highest price my magnificent Tang Corporation can offer. Uncle Long, I address you as uncle because I have a very close relationship with Zhengyu. Now that he's been seriously injured, it's already happened. Even if you want Cal Solin to be buried with him, it's only to vent your anger, and you won't get any substantial benefits. We are all businessmen, and what businessmen pursue is profit. Your Long Group is indeed a big enterprise, but it's not that easy to earn 1 billion easily, no? Today you give me face and also get some benefits. It's definitely killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Long Hanwen fell into silence. He even took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up. After taking a deep puff, he extinguished the cigarette butt in the ashtray and looked up at Tan Xiu, saying, "You're right. I'm a businessman, so I naturally won't turn a blind eye to money. Tan Xiu, considering our friendship, I don't want 1 billion from you. However, 800 million is the lowest price. Otherwise, I'll kill that Cal Solent." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and looked at William at the side with a complicated expression. He nodded and said, "I'll remember this favor, Uncle Long. I'll transfer the money to you soon. When will you let Cal Solin go?" Long Hanwen said, "I'll naturally release them after receiving the money." Tan Xiao and William didn't stay any longer. The moment they stepped out of the Long family's villa, an apologetic look appeared on William's face as he said, "I'm really sorry, Boss Tang. Because of us, you actually suffered such a huge loss. I will definitely pass on your help too." "Wait." Tan Xiao raised his hand and interrupted him. "I didn't lose anything. Don't tell me your Harbo Group wants me to pay this 800 million ransom out of my own pocket?" "What?" William was dumbfounded, and his expression froze. He stared at Tan Xiao as though he had seen a ghost, and didn't sober up from Tan Xiao's words for a long time. "I'm already doing a great favor for your Harbo Group by risking my life." Tan Xiao sneered. "My magnificent Tang Corporation is a business, not a charity. I don't have the right to lose such a sum of money for someone else's life. If you want Cal Solon to live, hurry up and contact the Harbo Group's top brass or his family. But if you're willing to give up Cal Solon's life, then this is all I can do for you." William opened his mouth, only to find that his throat was blocked by something and he couldn't speak at all. Tan Xiao took out a cigarette and lit it up. Then he said, "You're proficient in Mandarin, Mr. William, so you should know how precious Huaxia's favor is. It's already a huge price for me to owe the Long family a favor today. If you don't want to fork out 800 million yuan to save Cal Solon, I'll immediately announce to the media that this matter has nothing to do with my magnificent Tang Corporation. But I'd like to give you a piece of advice. The Long family has clearly stated the price. If your Harbo Group doesn't want to fork out the money, and this matter blows up, Long Hanwen will directly publicize what happened today. By that time, your Harbo Group's reputation will be swept to the ground, and you'll become a laughingstock in the international business community." William's expression changed and disbelief filled his eyes. He originally thought that Tan Xiao brought him to see Long Hanwen to help him. Little did he expect that Tan Xiao had dug a pit for him, and made him jump into it directly. He wouldn't have come with him if he had known this would happen. William clenched his fists and looked furious. He glared at Tan Xiao and said, "You're using the banner of helping us, Boss Tang, but you're actually digging a pit for us, aren't you?" "I don't like what you just said, William." Tan Xiao frowned and said, "How could Long Hanwen agree to release Cal Solon if it wasn't for me? You've seriously injured his son and he's still in a coma, and his life is in danger. Maybe Long Jingyu will die. Anyone who kills someone in Wuxia must pay with their life. Besides, it's indeed Cal Solon who seriously injured Long Jingyu. But you're the one behind it, aren't you? Do you think you can escape the responsibility if Cal Solon dies in Wuxia? What I want to know now is, are you helping me or harming me?" William angrily said, "Are you helping me or harming me? It's 800 million. 800 million yuan is not a small amount even if it's Huaxia's RMB. "I'm really angry to hear you talk to me like that, William," Tan Xiao said lightly. "I'm helping you out of kindness, yet you bite back at me? Is this your way of being a man? 800 million? Do you think Long Hanwen's Long Group really needs 800 million from you?" As far as I know, the Long Group's income from developing the new city in Star City is at least 8 billion. Why would I swindle you for a mere 800 million? William fell into silence. He felt that what Tan Xiao said was very reasonable. The Long Group indeed didn't lack 800 million yuan. After he had instructed Cal Solon to seriously injure Long Jingyu, he had sent some people to investigate the Long Group's situation. The result made him secretly startled. He didn't expect that a small dispute would unexpectedly provoke such a terrifying existence like the Long Group. But he didn't have 800 million yuan. If he were to mention it to the HQ, he was afraid that the company's top executives would skin him alive. What should I do? William's mind was constantly thinking about the solution to this matter. For a time, he was in a dilemma. Tan Xiao looked at William's constantly changing expression and lightly said, "Mr. William, I know this matter is a bit unexpected for you, but it's a matter of life and death after all. If you think it's not easy to solve, I can give you an idea." William stared blankly and hurriedly asked, "What idea?" "Long Jingyu's kung fu is very powerful, but Cal Solon can seriously injure him, which means that Cal Solon is a cultivator," Tan Xiao said lightly. As for the reason why he became a cultivator, it was probably not because he cultivated by himself, but because of the elders in his family, some powerful figures. Since it's related to his family's life and death, I think you don't need to contact the Harbo Group's HQ at all. Just contact Cal Solin's family directly. I'm sure they won't be stingy with 800 million yuan. William's eyes lit up, and he immediately felt a little happy. He had been stuck in a dead end thinking that he couldn't explain this matter to the Harbo Group's headquarters, but he had forgotten that Cal Solin's father, the major shareholder of the Harbo Group, was also a very powerful big boss. Boss Tang. At this moment, William's eyes suddenly turned a bit complicated when he looked at Tan Xiu. Money is not important to me at all, Mr. William, Tan Xiu said indifferently. Let alone 800 million yuan. I can easily take out 8 billion or 10 billion yuan if I want to. I'm sure you know how fast my magnificent Tang Corporation makes money. Yes. William nodded without a word. Tan Xiu then continued. You know how my magnificent Tang Corporation makes money, so you should know that I won't deliberately scam you for 800 million yuan given my status and identity. If I really joined hands with Long Hanwen to scam you, it's definitely not just 800 million yuan. Don't tell me that he directly reduced the price by 200 million yuan when I raised it to 1 billion yuan? This 200 million yuan is the face of this Tan Xiu, a debt of gratitude. That's right. William didn't think about this issue before. But now that he heard what Tan Xiu said, he carefully thought about it and felt that Tan Xiu's words made sense. 1 billion yuan and 800 million yuan were actually not much different. Tan Xiu had proposed 1 billion yuan as compensation, yet Long Hanwen directly reduced it by 200 million yuan. This showed that whether it was Tan Xiu or Long Hanwen, they were not short of money at all. Could it be did he misunderstand Tan Xiu? Did he have good intentions? Just to help me solve this trouble? William's mind raced and a guilty look gradually appeared on his face. He slightly bowed and said, It's all my fault, Boss Tang. I actually wronged you. I, William, hereby solemnly apologize to you. I hope you can forgive my mistake. You can rest assured that I'll immediately contact Cal Solin's father since you've done so much for me. He's a major shareholder of my Harbo Group. Cal Solin's father is a major shareholder of your Harbo Group. Tan Xiu was surprised. Cal Solin's identity is so noble, so how did he become your? Cal Solin just graduated from school, so his father asked him to study under me, explained William quickly. Cal Solin is a bit impulsive and has caused a lot of trouble in the past 2 years. It's just that I've always helped him deal with it, so he doesn't know how to restrain himself. I never expected that he would cause such a big trouble this time. Tan Xiu secretly sneered inwardly, but he maintained a straight face and said, Mr. William, since Cal Solin's identity is so noble, I think you should hurry up and contact his father. I'm afraid that Long Hanwen will kill Cal Solin out of anger if the time is too short. Don't doubt it. The Long family is the most powerful family in Star City. Even the government officials are somewhat afraid of them. Therefore, even if he killed Cal Solin, there wouldn't be too much trouble. Chapter 1174. After bidding farewell to William, Tan Xiu directly returned to the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ. He needed to wait for the news. If William could come up with 800 million renminbi, the Long family would no longer trouble them on the surface. However, the conspiracy had been launched against them, and it would be very difficult for them to have a good life. In the evening, William personally contacted Tan Xiu and invited Tan Xiu to go to the Imperial Dragon Manor with him. After the 800 million MRB was transferred to Long Hanwen's account, Long Hanwen made a phone call and released Cal Solin. Let's stay for dinner tonight, Uncle Long. Tan Xiu looked at Long Hanwen and said with a smile. My son is still lying in the hospital, so I don't have the mood to invite you to dinner, said Long Hanwen with a cold face. You're a good big boss, Tan Xiu, so don't bother with the Harbo Group's people in the future. These people are ruthless and merciless, so be careful when they deal with you one day. Ugh! The smile on Tan Xiu's face suddenly froze. He quickly glanced at William, who looked embarrassed, and hurriedly yawned and said, We won't bother you since you have something to do, Uncle Long. Shortly put, Thank you for giving me face this time, Uncle Long. Immediately after, Tan Xiao and William left the Long family's villa in a sorry state. When they came to the gate, William sincerely apologized. I apologize to you again, Boss Tang. I shouldn't have misunderstood you before. Now that the matter has been settled. You see, is it really impossible for the Harbo Group to cooperate with your magnificent Tang Corporation? You must know that we came to China and Star City this time with full sincerity. We want to cooperate with your magnificent Tang Corp and earn a lot of wealth together. I accept your apology, but I won't choose to cooperate with your Harbo Group. Tan Xiao waved his hand. I, Tan Xiao, may not be a big shot, but I'm also a man of my word, so I must pay attention to integrity. My magnificent Tang Corporation has already issued an announcement, so won't I become a company without credibility if I go back on my word now? If it really comes to that, who would dare to cooperate with my magnificent Tang Corp among so many large companies in the world? William fell into silence for a while, and then said with a lonely face, I won't pester you anymore since you've made up your mind, Boss Tang. I hope you'll have the opportunity to cooperate with our Harbo Group and other businesses in the future. All right. Tan Xiao nodded. An hour later, William quickly returned to the Long's dining hall with more than a dozen subordinates. When he just stepped into the Long's dining hall's entrance, he saw a lot of people gathered in the hall on the first floor. Let's go and see what happened. William was in a terrible mood, so after giving the order, he did not plan to stay in the hall. As the general manager of the Harbo Group in China, he made a fool of himself and caused the magnificent Tang Corp to issue an announcement that they would no longer cooperate with the Harbo Group. Get out of the way. The subordinate who was sent by William squeezed into the crowd and looked at the person who was surrounded by dozens of people. He immediately shouted. His voice made William, who was about to leave, stop in his tracks. After a while, William's face turned red. He looked at the crowd surrounding Cao Soland, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog. He wished he could find a hole to bury himself in. How shameful. It was too shameful. At this moment, Cao Soland was badly beaten. The tendons in his legs and hands were broken, and both of his front teeth were knocked out. If one wasn't familiar with him, they wouldn't be able to recognize him immediately. The most important thing was that Cao Soland didn't wear a coat at all, and several big words were written on his chest with a thick red pen. Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. Take him away. William didn't want to stay here any longer. He shouted with a sullen face, turned around, and strode toward the elevator. He didn't notice that several young men in suits and ties nearby were staring at him with malicious eyes. At the magnificent Tang Corporation. As soon as Tan Xiao returned, he immediately arranged for someone to publicize what happened today. In just a couple of hours, the heads of various companies all over the world heard about what happened today. All of a sudden, everyone looked at Tan Xiao with admiration. Many of the companies even made up their minds to cooperate with the magnificent Tang Corporation inside the spacious and bright general manager's office. Tan Xiao had just sat on the soft sofa. Kong Xiao's cup of tea had yet to be served to him when a figure suddenly appeared in front of Tan Xiao out of thin air. There's news from Country M, Grandmaster. How is it? Asked Tan Xiao. We've investigated the bosses of Cupid, Dandelion, and Sava groups, said Tang, and Cupid has a deep relationship with a politician of Country M, and its biggest shareholder is that politician. The big boss behind Dandelion is someone with a high status in the Stygian Club. The person in charge of Dandelion who came to China this time is protected by more than a dozen experts from the Stygian Club. The Sava Groups is quite complicated and has many shareholders, but the identities of two of them have been confirmed. They have a deep relationship with the pyramid. Tan Xiao squinted his eyes and sneered. Since they all have deep backgrounds, then let them fight among themselves. Tangan, secretly kill the Dandelion's experts and then sneak attack the Harbo Group's people. Mix their corpses together, and make it look like they are attacking each other. Afterward, make the chiefs of both sides appear at the same time. Are we only targeting Dandelion? Asked Tangan. The assassination will only target Dandelion, said Tan Xiao. But you are to secretly kill several people from Cupid and Sava groups, and throw them into the Long family's villa in the Imperial Dragon Manor. Then we'll just sit back and watch the show. Understood. Tangan replied and disappeared into thin air. Kong Xia came to Tan Xiao with a cup of hot tea in her hand. She glanced around and a forced smile appeared on her beautiful face as she hesitantly said, "I don't feel comfortable, boss." "What do you mean?" asked Tan Xiao, puzzled. "You always have mysterious people following you around," said Kong Xia helplessly. "They always appear in front of you out of thin air without me noticing them. If this goes on, I won't dare to be intimate with you in the future. I'm afraid that someone will suddenly appear around us when we're doing that kind of thing. Or someone might be watching us from the side." Tan Xiao stared blankly, and a strange expression immediately appeared on his face. He knew who Kong Xia was talking about. He didn't realize this kind of situation before, but after Kong Xia's reminder, he realized that Tang'an had been following him in the dark. It must be noted that he had a lot of female confidants, and Tang'an was always nearby when he was having sex with them. What if? Tan Xiao felt a chill run down his spine. He pulled Kong Xia over and gently hugged her in his arms, saying, "I've neglected this matter. But Tang'an's innate talent is to use space to hide herself. If she doesn't want to be found, even I won't be able to find her easily. Anyways, I'll arrange a feng shui array first when we're intimate later. That way, she won't be able to easily observe us. How about you arrange a feng shui array in our bedroom in advance?" Kong Xia helplessly said. "Otherwise, I'll always be scared." Tan Xiao let out a hollow laugh and nodded. "What plan did you discuss with Long Hanwen exactly?" asked Kong Xia. "It seems like there's a lot of good drama waiting for us. Zheng Yu is my friend. I can't just sit back and watch him get seriously injured," said Tan Xiao. "They must pay the price since they dare to hit others. However, our magnificent Tang Corporation is now in the limelight, and I can't bring any damage to our company's reputation. Therefore, we can only deal with this Harbo group in secret." "What do you need me to do?" asked Kong Xia. "You don't need to do anything for the time being." Tan Xiao shook his head. "Hao Lei will probably arrive in Star City in a few days. I'll talk to her about something and you'll have to come up with some ideas." "Is it about the auction?" asked Kong Xia. "It's about the auction, indeed." Tan Xiao nodded. "I even have an idea. Our magnificent Tang Corporation's products are too singular, so it's better to join hands with Grand Fortune Jewelry to set up the world's largest auction house. I have a way to make the auction house's reputation flourish." "What is it?" asked Kong Xia hurriedly. "Medicinal pills," answered Tan Xiao with a smile. "You want to sell medicinal pills to the public?" asked Kong Xia in surprise. "I'm going to develop 2 kinds of medicinal pills," said Tan Xiao. "One of them is to temper the physique, and the other is to prolong one's lifespan. The effect of these 2 pills won't be great, but they can still bring great benefits if taken over a long period of time." "Are they going to be the final treasures of every auction?" asked Kong Xia. "That's right." Tan Xiao nodded. "These 2 pills alone are enough to drive people all over the world crazy. However, they need to be packaged and sold as healthcare products. I can already see the scene of the world's top super-rich flocking here when the time comes." Kong Xia nodded. "I'm amazing, aren't I?" Tan Xiao chuckled. Kong Xia kissed Tan Xiao's face and faintly said, "When I first received your call, I thought it was some guy who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and deliberately made fun of me. When I came to Star City and saw you for the first time, I was full of disappointment and thought that you were too young. But now, I'm glad for my previous decision." "I was very poor and weak at that time," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "To be honest, the development of the magnificent Tang Corporation in the past 2 years is inseparable from your efforts. I should be glad that I can get a treasure like you." "Andy is also a treasure," said Kong Xia with a smile. "Ugh." Tan Xiao's expression turned stiff and he suddenly felt a faint headache. Today's second update, please support me, brothers and sisters. If you don't have any monthly votes, just throw some recommendation votes. I'll be very grateful. Chapter 1175. At the Long's dining hall. In the wide corridor, the lights were brightly lit. Despite it being winter, the corridor was as warm as spring. Even the potted plants in the corner were lush and thriving. However, the faint smell of blood permeated the corridor, bringing a bit of somber atmosphere to the place. A ghostly figure. All the monitors in this corridor had been destroyed. It was precisely because of this that the 4 security guards of the Long's dining hall appeared at the corner and rushed over to check. Vandalism. After the 4 security guards' inspection, they finally came to this conclusion. However, they found it hard to believe that there were a total of 6 monitors in this corridor. Aside from the 2 ends, there were 4 more in the middle. Yet, they didn't see even a shadow of a person in the video recordings before the monitors were destroyed. This was abnormal. It was very abnormal. Even if someone at both ends attacked the monitors at the same time, it would still be recorded by the monitor in the middle. Even if 6 people attacked the monitors at the same time, they would still leave a shadow before the monitors were destroyed. Just as the 4 security guards were feeling restless and patrolling around, one of them suddenly found that the door of room 4018 was unlocked. Dalong, go inside and have a look. The burly middle-aged man ordered his companion beside him, and carefully pushed open the unlocked door with his hand. Hiss! When the man called Dalong stepped into the door, his pupils suddenly shrunk and disbelief burst out from his eyes. There was even a bit of fear hidden in his eyes. Dead people. A total of 6. The other 3 men's complexion changed. They quickly rushed into the room, and saw a total of 6 bodies lying in a pool of blood in the spacious room. 2 of them were black, 1 was Caucasian, and the other 3 were Asians. Quickly call the police. Dalong shouted. The burly middle-aged man hurriedly stopped him and said in a deep voice, "We can't call the police. Let's notify the captain first. We need the captain to solve the murder case in the hotel." Dalong quickly said, "Brother Wang, why don't we hurry up and call the police? Maybe the police can find the murderer when they come." The burly middle-aged man coldly snorted and said, "A murder case has occurred in our hotel. Once it's publicized, it will cause a huge loss to our hotel's reputation. What time is it now?" It was the time when the representatives of various large corporations from various countries were in Star City. Our Long's Dining Hall is the most luxurious hotel in Star City. How many foreign forces have stayed there? Do you want to see this matter blow up? Dalong didn't understand this. After a moment of hesitation, he stammered, "We'll listen to Brother Wang." Very soon, the security guards of the Long's Dining Hall confirmed the identities of the 6 dead men. They were from Dandelion Group and Harbo Group respectively. Among them, only 1 body belonged to the Harbo Group, which was located next to the innermost bed. The other 5 bodies belonged to the Dandelion Group's members. When the security personnel notified the 2 companies, the people in charge of both sides were dumbfounded. However, in just an hour and a half, the general person in charge of the Dandelion Company contacted Tan Xiao. In a coffee shop near Southgate Town, Tan Xiao, who was wearing a cap and casual clothes, was quietly sitting in a corner, sipping his coffee. Opposite him, the general manager of the Dandelion Company had a gloomy expression. His eyes were surging with killing intent as he stared at Tan Xiao. "What do you want to do?" asked Tan Xiao slowly after a long time. Clenching his fists, Yezek enunciated each word clearly. "Boss Tang, our Dandelion Company really wants to cooperate with your company, but your company has rules that forbid us from acting recklessly in China. I'm very angry now, but I dare not retaliate against the Harbo Group. However, I do know that you and young Master Long Jingyu are friends. Since the Long Group doesn't dare to go against the Harbo Group, then let us avenge young Master Long. Do you agree?" A strange look was cast on Tan Xiao's face. He didn't expect Yezek to be so smart as to come up with such an excuse. "I agree." Although Tan Xiao agreed inwardly, he pretended to be deep in thought. After a long silence, he slowly shook his head and said, "Mr. Yezek, it's reasonable to say that I'm very angry that Zhengyu was seriously injured. But you all came to China and Star City because of the magnificent Tang Corporation. If I can't guarantee your safety, it will make me feel very bad. But are you sure it's the Harbo Group's people who killed your men?" "There's absolutely no mistake about it," said Yezek in a deep voice. "I've sent some people to check the dead bodies, and it was indeed William's men who did it. They even left in a hurry and left the body of a member of the Harbo Group behind. There's always a motive for killing people. I don't think the Harbo Group would kill your men for no reason, no? Asked Tan Xiao. We have some grudges with the Harbo Group before, and both sides are competitors, said Yezek. That bastard William can't get your approval, so the Harbo Group can't cooperate with the Magnificent Tang Corporation. I'm guessing that they must be worried about the cooperation between the Dandelion Company and the Magnificent Tang Corp, so they want to sabotage it. Tan Xiao's expression changed and he asked in a deep voice, Are you sure about that? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 90% sure, said Yezek. I've sent some people to investigate the Dandelion Company's situation. Actually, said Tan Xiao. They're very strong and honest, and they're a very good partner. I originally planned to talk to you about the cooperation, but I didn't expect this situation to happen. William is really damned for daring to sabotage our cooperation. Yezek was pleasantly surprised after hearing it and hurriedly asked, Do you agree to it, Mr. Tang? I agree to it, but I also have a request, said Tan Xiao. If your Dandelion Company wants to continue cooperating with my Magnificent Tang Corp, you must do it stealthily when you deal with William. Else, I'm afraid I won't be able to withstand the public opinion, even if I really want to cooperate with you. I can only give up in the end. Please rest assured, Mr. Tang, said Yezek in a deep voice. We'll definitely do it quietly. I can even rope in some people from Cupid to deal with the Harbo Group with us. This time, the Harbo Group's people won't be able to leave China alive. If you can do it quietly, you can definitely put the blame on the Long Group, said Tan Xiao. After all, the Long Group and the Harbo Group have a grudge. You and the Long Group. Yezek was surprised. What I care about is the Magnificent Tang Corp's collaborator, said Tan Xiao lightly. My company may have some business cooperation with the Long Group, but it's not worth mentioning compared to our upcoming cooperation. Yezek got up and bowed. After shaking hands with Tan Xiao, he excitedly said, You're really an excellent businessman, Mr. Tang. I'll pass on your good intentions to my boss. I'll also formulate a very rigorous and thorough plan to ensure that William of Harbo Group and the people he brought with him disappear from Earth without a trace. The next morning, when Tan Xiao was having breakfast at home, Kong Xia hurried over and placed a tablet in front of Tan Xiao. She then whispered, What should happen has happened, boss. Tan Xiao narrowed his eyes and asked, Where's Tang'an? She's outside, answered Kong Xia. Only then did Tan Xiao recall that he had arranged an array around the house. Even if Tang'an could shuttle through space, she wouldn't be able to easily enter the array he had arranged. Immediately after, Tan Xiao turned on the tablet and saw the video on it. A smile immediately formed on his face and he asked, How's the situation with the Long family? According to your plan, Long Hanwen has sent his men to invite the chief executives of Cupid and Vesa to the Imperial Dragon Manor, questioning them face to face as to why they sent people to attack the Long family and killed so many of their people, said Kong Xia. Those two fellas are now at a loss and can't explain themselves. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for the Dandelion Company to get rid of everyone from the Harbo Group, said Tan Xiao with a smile. But it'll be very easy if the Dandelion Company cooperates with Cupid and Sava. I can guess that William can escape, but I believe it'll be very difficult for him to escape from Star City. That's true. Kong Xia nodded. William is now hiding in a residential building in Star City's new town. It's a very secluded place since the building hasn't been handed over to its owner yet. In addition, only 4 of William's subordinates are still alive, but 2 of them are injured. Tell the Dandelion Company's people to spread the news that the Harbo Group's people killed the Cupid and Sava Group's people, and then threw their bodies to the Long family, said Tan Xiao. The purpose is to make these 2 families hostile to the Long Group, and use them to get rid of the Long Group. Kong Xia's eyes lit up, and she immediately strode out of the room. At noon, inside the newly built building in Star City's new town that had yet to be handed over to the owner, William, with a blood stain on his face, slumped on the cold floor with sullen eyes. It was a mess. Everything was a mess. He felt as though there was an invisible big net that had enveloped him and his men, carrying out a huge plot against him. Where's that bastard Kelsaland? William gasped for a few breaths and looked at a strong man 7 or 8 meters away. Cal Solin's injuries are very serious and he's now receiving treatment at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, said the strong man. But the news we got is that he was picked up by someone this morning, and his whereabouts are unknown. Who is it? The bad premonition inside William's heart was getting stronger. Chapter 1176. William was able to become the head of the Harbo Group's branch in China, and had encountered all kinds of storms and waves. But none of them made him feel so strange. And none of them had ever made him so flustered. What should I do? Countless thoughts flashed in William's mind, but he found himself at a loss. He hadn't found out who the one who attacked them was until now. After a long time, William shouted, "Contact Old Wolf immediately. He's been dormant in China for too long, and it's time for him to wake up and move around. Tell him to find Cal Solin no matter the cost, else we'll all be in big trouble." "Understood," replied the burly man respectfully. William sighed inwardly. He had spent 800 million renminbi. If he couldn't bring Cal Solin back to M country alive, Cal Solin's father, the ruthless major shareholder of the Harbo Group, would definitely kill him. Bang! The gunshots in the distance were transmitted to William's ears. William's expression changed. When he quickly rushed to the side of the wall that had yet to be installed with a window, he saw that on the horizon in the distance, there were strong figures chasing after more than 10 people at high speed within his line of sight. As the gunshots kept ringing, some of the fleeing people in the front fell to the ground, while some of the pursuing people also fell to the ground. One chasing and one fleeing, the other shooting fiercely at each other and reaping lives. "General Manager, it's Old Wolf." The burly man not far away suddenly turned his head and hurriedly called out. William's body trembled. As the distance between the two sides was getting closer, he also saw Old Wolf, who had been lurking in China, among the fleeing people. Old Wolf was holding a person in his arms, but he couldn't see the person's appearance. "Welcome them. Support them." William pondered for a moment and immediately shouted. Two figures immediately rushed downstairs. Their speed was extremely fast, like spiritual apes. They kept grabbing the staircase handrail and jumped down. Soon, they appeared on the first floor of the building. When Old Wolf was only 200 to 300 meters away from them, the two men quickly approached him with the help of a low bunker. "Who's there?" Old Wolf, who was holding Cal Solin and desperately fleeing, suddenly noticed that someone was hiding nearby and immediately shouted. However, after he finished shouting, he immediately regretted it, because he had already seen the two big men hiding in the corner. One of their own. Old Wolf felt relieved. He didn't wait for any answer, and quickly rushed into the building. The remaining dozen or so experts beside him also entered the building and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At the back, 40 to 50 strong men, led by 2 men and 1 woman, quickly rushed to the front of the building. However, they did not immediately enter the building because they did not know if there was an enemy ambush in the building. Puff, puff, puff. As the 40 to 50 strong men spread out, 2 silent silhouettes sprang out from hidden places on both sides. In just a few seconds, 4 strong men were hugged from behind, their mouths covered, their throats torn open, and their hearts pierced by sharp daggers. Even the deaths of these 4 people did not alarm anyone in the surroundings. In front of the building, the woman among the 2 men and 1 woman was very tall. She might be wearing gold-rimmed glasses, but she exuded a valiant aura. She twisted her neck and said in a heavy voice, "Yezek Transcendent. Our men have investigated very clearly. Apart from that old dog William, the Harbo Group only has this Old Wolf left in Wuxia. They fled here just to make a last-ditch struggle. I think the 3 of us should immediately send our men to hunt them down." Yezek let out a sinister grin. He raised his hand to touch his chin and said, "We managed to force William here, so we can kill him without anyone noticing. Now that Old Wolf has also fled here, it means this is their rendezvous point. Let's not delay any longer and attack." "Attack!" Transcendent also shouted fiercely. Inside the building, William looked at Cal Solin, who was sent to him by Old Wolf. Killing intent was faintly discernible in his eyes. He was very regretful now. He regretted making a move against Long Jingyu and letting this damned fool Cal Solin do it. How could things have escalated to this point if it wasn't for the matter with the Long family? William, my old friend, we need to find a way to leave this place. A large number of experts from the Dandelion, Cupid, and Sava groups have chased us here. We'll be sitting ducks if we continue to stay here. Old Wolf was in his 40s, short and dark-skinned. He was the kind of common type that would be hard to find in a crowd. William took a deep breath and said, I wasn't sure about it before, but I also guessed that it should be those 3 companies who are targeting us. It's just that I don't understand why they suddenly joined forces to attack our Harbo group. Although I have some friction with them, it's not to the extent of tearing off all decorum and fighting to the death. Also, don't tell me they don't want to get the cooperation contract with the magnificent Tang Corp? Old Wolf's eyes flickered and he replied without being salty or light. Maybe those 3 companies have reached some kind of secret agreement with the magnificent Tang Corporation. Or maybe Star City's Long Group has gotten involved. Put simply, we're all enemies now, be it in the open or in the dark. William gave it a thought. He had no better solution despite feeling helpless inside. So he said, inform the 2 of them to evacuate. A rope was hung from the top to the bottom in the passage that hadn't been installed yet. As William and the others grabbed the rope and quickly descended, more than a dozen people quickly appeared in the underground parking lot. Let's go. Those bastards will never expect that we'll escape from this place. We must find a way to escape from Star City and China as fast as possible. I'll make those bastards pay a painful price as long as we return to Country M. William waved his fist and spoke with a murderous aura. However, just as his voice faded away, a number of figures flashed lightning fast. In just a few seconds, dozens of figures appeared at the entrance of the underground parking lot. Yezek, Coventry, and Avril, the woman with a murderous aura, were looking at William and the others with disdain. Yezek was the first to come over and smilingly said, How are you, my old friend, Sir William? William frowned and a murderous glint flashed in his eyes as he coldly said, Yezek, you damned son of a bitch. I really should have killed you back in Country M. The smile on Yezek's face instantly vanished without a trace. He raised his right arm and fiercely slammed it down as he shouted, Kill them! Kill them all! Kill! Coventry and Avril didn't hesitate anymore. Since they had already come to this point, they were decisive people and immediately pounced toward William's group. Firearms were useless at this moment. As they took out their cold weapons, they began to strangle each other in a moment. William wanted to escape, but Yezek's group of 3 immediately locked onto him. If it wasn't for Old Wolf abandoning Cal Soland and protecting him, he would have been killed by the trio. Tens of meters away, in a hidden corner, Tangan, who was wearing a bronze mask, had an excited look in her eyes as she recorded all the fighting scenes with the video recorder in her hand. Kill them! William suddenly raised his head and roared. His suit exploded and his muscles squirmed. In just a few breaths, his body grew several times bigger and his height increased to about 2 meters. At the same time, his hair began to grow crazily. A werewolf? Yezek, Chongroan, and Avril were all stunned, especially Yezek. The moment he discovered that William was a werewolf, a deep sense of regret grew in his heart. With a ruthless sweep of his longsword, he instantly killed Chongroan, who was very close to him, and kicked Avril away. Great changes. The sudden change caused everyone to stop fighting and look at Yezek in disbelief. Yezek raised his head and roared. His body also began to change and turned into a werewolf in just a few seconds. Avril's pupils shrunk and she angrily roared. Those damned werewolves are all from the Stygian Club. I never thought that the Harbo Group and the Dandelion Company are all the Stygian Club's assets. Kill them. Kill them all. William was ecstatic. He never dreamed that Yezek, who had a lot of grudges with him, turned out to be a werewolf like him, a member of the same race. In a flash, the wonderful feeling of going from hell to heaven made him laugh loudly. Kill them, brothers. Kill all the Cupid and Sava Group's people. Kill. Die. A tragic battle unfolded in the underground parking lot that hadn't been built yet. Yezek's sudden defection had caused serious damage to Cupid and Sava groups. The death of Coventry further caused the experts of Cupid to lose their backbone and gradually fall into a disadvantageous position. Avril's eyes glinted with scarlet light. She looked at her subordinates who kept falling around her, as well as the Cupid people who were trying to escape. She immediately shouted, "Everyone listen up. I'll reward you with $100,000 for every enemy you kill, be it the brothers and sisters of Cupid, or the experts of my Sava group. I'll give you an additional $10 million if you can kill all these enemies." Great rewards always bring forth brave men. In a flash, the people of Cupid and Sava groups were as though injected with chicken blood, and their combat power doubled. Some people would even shout out loud after killing an enemy, using money to stimulate their nerves, attempting to kill again in order to obtain more rewards. Chapter 1177. Both sides suffered heavy losses in the brutal slaughter. Despite Avril's generous incentive, the Cupid and Sava groups members were still gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. Avril immediately issued a retreat order after realizing the situation. However, neither William nor Yezek wanted to give up such an opportunity, and began to pursue Avril and the others. Puff, beside the dead Solend, the heavily injured old wolf's eyes instantly widened. He looked at the tip of the sword that had pierced through his chest and turned his neck with great difficulty. What he saw was a mysterious person wearing a bronze mask and a mysterious woman. That's enough. A smile was outlined on the corner of Tang An's mouth. Her figure twisted and disappeared into thin air. She didn't continue to follow the experts who were fighting, but left at a very fast speed. Today's battle was just a prelude. This was just a prelude. What came next was the real fun part. When Tang An returned to Southgate Town and appeared outside the villa's courtyard, her face, which was covered by the bronze mask, looked a bit angry. She really couldn't figure out the reason why her Grand Master, Tang Xiu, would arrange a feng shui array here, so much so that she couldn't appear in front of him silently. Kong Xia. The moment Tang An entered the room, she saw Kong Xia sitting on the sofa, deep in thought. She then asked indifferently, "Is Grand Master upstairs?" Kong Xia snickered inwardly. Ever since Tan Xiu arranged a feng shui array here, Tang An had never been able to enter the villa silently. Looking at her slightly angry expression, Kong Xia pursed her lips and said, "I'm waiting for the news in the study room." Humph. Tang An snorted lightly and turned to walk to the stairs. Inside the study room, Tan Xiu looked at Tang An, who just entered the room. He immediately got up from the sofa and asked, "Have you recorded it?" Tang An handed the camera to Tan Xiu and said, "I've recorded it, but I didn't catch up with them to see their final chase. You should watch this video, Grand Master. It's very interesting." Tan Xiu's expression moved and he immediately played it. After a long while, Tan Xiu looked at Tang An with a strange expression and asked, "I already knew that the Stygian Club is behind Dandelion, but I didn't expect that the Harbo Group is also backed by them. So to say, Cal Solin's father is a member of the Stygian Club?" "It should be." Tang An nodded. "Even if he isn't, I'm afraid he has a deep relationship with the Stygian Club." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said, "I'm giving you a mission. Tang An, immediately disseminate this video and do it secretly. Make it known to all the forces that come to Star City. In addition, each video was sent to the headquarters of the 4 companies in America. Since they want to play, then let them have a good time. I hope they can fight to their heart's content abroad." 2 of the top 3 forces in the world are already involved. Tang An nodded. Be it the Stygian Club or Pyramid, these 2 forces are like fire and water to begin with. Even if this matter doesn't make them tear off all pretense of cordiality, it's very likely that it will add fuel to the fire. Is there anything else we can do, Grand Master? Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and slowly said, "Notify Mo and the rest to solve the issue in Japan as soon as possible. Then all of them are to sneak into the cities of America and stay hidden there. Even if the Stygian Club and Pyramid were to fight each other in 2 months' time, it would still be enough to end the war. Once the battle between the 2 sides comes to an end, Jinshi will immediately head to America and begin to lay out the intelligence network there. Mo Ao and the rest may not have been engaged in intelligence work before, but they know a lot about it." Tang An nodded. "They often deal with intelligence organizations when they carry out their missions in the past. Once they arrive in America, they'll be able to lay out their plan and form the prototype of an intelligence network when Jinshe arrives. All right, you can go now. Tan Xiao waved his hand and watched Tang and leave the study room. His eyes flickered. The upheaval of America's major corporations and the infighting between the two superpowers would definitely shake the whole world. The Tang sect could fish in troubled waters at this time and definitely reap huge benefits. In the past, Tang sect's foundation was too weak, so he didn't act rashly. Even when the various cultivation forces from all over the world went to Nine Dragons Island, he had to find ways to avoid conflicts between the Tang sect's disciples and the cultivation forces from all over the world. But now, although the Tang sect wasn't very powerful, it could be said to be fully fledged. If he were to wait for a few more years for the outstanding cultivation geniuses from the Tang sect's army to stand out, the Tang sect's strength would be even stronger. Suddenly, Tan Xiao recalled something. Ban's Ho and the rest had obtained cultivation techniques, but he didn't ask about their cultivation. Tan Xiao took out his mobile and dialed Banshou's number. Ban's Ho, it's me. What's your order, boss? Banshou's voice came out of the phone. Where are you now? Asked Tan Xiao. How's your cultivation going? We haven't felt the chi you mentioned until now, boss, said Ban's Ho with a dry smile. But we're not discouraged. We're seriously trying every day, and each of us tries for at least 2 hours. Oh, that's right, we're now in Jingmen Island. It's been a long time since I told you to suspend the adoption of street children, said Tan Xiao. So continue with the operation. That's great. Ban's Ho looked pleasantly surprised and said, We haven't been idling all this time, boss. We didn't spend all our time on cultivation either. We have a total of 4 teams, and we often travel all over the country. We've found more than 100 good children these days. It's just that you didn't allow us to adopt them, so we just sent some people to follow them in secret and observe them. We haven't gathered them yet. You did a good job, said Tan Xiao. There's one more thing, said Ban's Ho. I need people in your 4 teams who are proficient in various languages and even have some understanding of foreign countries. Boss, you want us to go abroad to search for street children? Asked Ban's Ho, surprised. That's right. But we'll start in Asia, said Tan Xiao. There's no need to have a lot of children in each country, just 1,000 is enough. I'll immediately gather everyone, boss, said Ban's Ho excitedly. Then I'll tell them to report to you. Tell them to rush to Star City in 2 days, said Tan Xiao. I'll be waiting for them in Star City. He hung up the phone. As Tan Xiao was about to leave the study room, he suddenly heard a knock on the door. Hao Lei's voice came from outside. Sect Master, Hao Lei is here to report. Come in, said Tan Xiao. The door opened. Hao Lei and Kong Xia came in from the outside. At this time, Hao Lei's body exuded a faintly discernible aura. It was obvious that she had broken through to the mid-stage of Golden Core. Good. Tan Xiao nodded and took out another interspatial ring from his interspatial ring. He handed it over to Hao Lei and said, This is the auction's auction item. Drop your blood to recognize it as the owner first, and then take a good look at it. Hao Lei nodded and took the interspatial ring. As per Tan Xiao's instruction, it didn't take long for her to drip her blood to recognize it as the owner. Then her beautiful face turned sluggish and disbelief filled her eyes. Shocking. It was really too shocking. She never dreamed that Tan Xiao would be able to take out so many treasures. Not to mention the jewelry, just the hundreds of antiques and curios were obviously priceless treasures. All of these things will be auctioned off at once, said Tan Xiao. Also, I need you to set up a large auction house, preferably in Demonic City. I'll give you another 5 billion to set up the auction house in addition to the 1 billion promotion fee. Hao Lei pondered for a moment and slowly said, Sect Master, we must have our own building if we want to set up the auction house. I'm not talking about renting a few floors in a building, but completely belonging to us. The most important ones are the auctioneers and appraisers, which must have fixed personnel. Additionally, there must be security personnel. The items in the auction house are generally priceless, so security must be the top priority. I won't take care of this matter, said Tan Xiao. You can handle it yourself. I'll contact Gu Xiaoxue later and ask her to send a group of experts from her sect for you to use. Hao Lei hesitated for a moment before she nodded and said, I'll do my best. In the evening, the sun was setting in the west, and the afterglow dyed half of the sky red. A cold wind blew through every corner of Star City and brought a video to the hands of hundreds of forces. The 10-minute video had caused an uproar. Countless forces spread the news and spread the video to various countries all over the world through the internet. At the imperial capital, the Special Abilities Bureau's HQ, Duan Mulin had just finished his dinner and was talking with Zhu Long about the demonic beasts in the Himalayas. A thin youth quickly ran into the room and handed over a tablet computer, saying, Chief, there's a video from Star City. It's very influential. Star City? Duan Mulin frowned and asked after receiving the tablet. Where's Tan Xiao now? He's in Star City, answered the youth. Duan Mulin shook his head and forced a smile. That brat is too good at stirring up trouble. No matter where he is, he can always stir up big events. Some time ago, the turmoil in Japan was caused by him rushing to Japan. I'm afraid he's the one who did some of these things himself. Alas, I'll take a look at this video first. I hope this brat doesn't act recklessly. Chief, the content of this video seems to have nothing to do with Mr. Tang on the surface. But if we look into it deeply, it's definitely related to him, said the youth. In other words, it's related to his magnificent Tang Corporation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.